Other than that, you have any questions before we get going?
No, let's rock and roll.
Cool. Then I will start the pomp and circumstance. Previous guest writes the first question. I will turn it over to you, sir. Be a mystery to both of us.
All right, let's do it. First question. His handwriting's like mine. What's the one thing civilians always get wrong when they try to say thank you for your service or show support? Yeah, actually, I just got something like this. It happens. This is a great question. A lot of people see me, they see my scar, and they assume that it's from the military right away. So a lot of people get that wrong, and people say, oh man, they find out you're in the military. They go, oh, thank you for your service. My dad was this, and usually it's quick, but sometimes you can see people kind of like lean in on you and they go, hey man, like, no, really, like, thank you. Like, and you're like, oh no, of course, man. Yeah, absolutely. You're welcome. Like, you try to just like, but you could tell they're trying to be like, hey, I see you. And you're like, oh man, it's cool. I was in combat before I joined, like that's old. So sometimes that's kind of the main thing for me specifically is people will just assume that I had a gnarlier service than I did, kind of.
And we're going to get into what you're doing today with the comedy, but I would imagine it kind of lends itself to that because I'm assuming you don't go deep into your story of your time in service. You probably just say, I'm a Marine and kind of leave it there because you got the rest of your show to do. So that just kind of furthers them just going, oh man, look at that scar, like, thank you for your service. And it's, I don't mean this in a negative way, but it's like, they really don't know. There's so much more to your backstory that if they really knew, you're like, oh shit, the surface stuff is almost minor.
Right, exactly. Yeah, it's kind of like they want to like connect with you and be like, oh man, it's so crazy, especially like on stage and stuff. People are like, oh man, I bet this and that. But when you're on stage, like it's like short. I have like some bits about being in the military. I have some bits about the scar, but depending on the show or the set, like I may not even be able to get into it. And a lot of times people will come up to me after and they'll be like, man, you got to do stuff about your scar. Like if I were you, I'd be like, I have it, man. I just didn't, I don't have
Saturday show.
Yeah, I don't have an hour. Yeah, literally I'll be like, you got to come see me do my hour. You got to see the full set.
So let's take you backwards. Let's get into that story because I think it's interesting. Where's hometown? Where'd you grow up?
So I was born and raised in Las Vegas, Nevada. And yeah, I spent like the first 17 years of my life there. Grew up running the streets. My home life was crazy. My parents struggled with drug problems and stuff. And
were your mom and dad from Vegas also, or did they kind of migrate there?
My mom is from Vegas. She was born in Vegas. My dad was born in Mississippi. His family comes from Louisiana and like Sicily and all that. But, back in like 62, my dad was like 7 when he moved to Vegas. They moved out to Vegas and my grandpa got a job like working at the what was it, the Thunderbird Casino, like a really old casino in Vegas, the dealer there. And yeah, my dad grew up there and got into construction, started a construction company, met my mom, they got together, had my sister. And
so you're junior to your sister?
Yeah, my sister's 6 years older than me. And fast forward 1990, I'm born and things kind of start to take a turn. My dad and my mom was, not having a good time with each other. My mom was a little wild. She was kind of brought my dad into the darkness a little bit, but he made his own decisions as well.
Same age, mom and dad?
No, I think my dad's probably like 5 years older than my mom. And yeah, my mom and dad were struggling with drug stuff and my dad kind of lost his company. We lost the house, and that's right around the time I'm like starting school, like first grade-ish. And it was just kind of like from there it was downhill. It was pretty bad. It was a lot of moving around and a lot of like uncertainty and a lot of like really uncomfortable shit. Just like it's instability. I went to a different school every year from kindergarten all the way up till I joined the Marine Corps. And it wasn't, people hear that and they're like, oh, were you like fighting and a bad kid? I was like, I mean, I was getting into chaos, but I never got kicked out of school like that. It was just my parents, couldn't get their shit together. And so my dad,
you wouldn't, and I'm going to say this almost sarcastically, you wouldn't think that Vegas is that big to where it would give you the opportunity
to move so much.
So many schools and stuff.
Yeah, people think it's like a small town, and it is. It is like it's not very big. But what's crazy is now every time I go back, it's like
different.
It's bigger and bigger. They're building so much shit there. It's gigantic.
There's a football stadium that you almost drive through it on the freeway.
Yeah, it looks like a giant Roomba or something. It's huge, beautiful. It's great that they got that. Now they're building like a baseball stadium and shit too. It's wild. That town is. If you're looking to invest somewhere, invest there. I sold my condo a couple years ago. I wish I could have held on to it, but
what's crazy though is on the flip side, they're saying that tourism is dropping for Vegas.
Is it really? Yeah, I don't keep up with it. I know COVID hit them real hard. I don't know about tourism, but every time California gets weird, more people go to Vegas. So even if tourism's low, like residency is going up for sure. And just like I assume compared to California, cost to just do business and produce goods and whatever you're doing, it's easier to like do it in Vegas. Yeah, and it's a short drive, so a lot of people will work and live their life in Vegas and still have ties to California, but they know that they're like I can't do what I'm doing in California. This is the hold on you is too tight, whether it's money or just the laws and politics. People are getting uncomfortable and they're moving there, and it's the city's like getting huge because of it. It's crazy. But I grew up in in the 90s there, and it was a lot smaller then. It was actually, I went to like a middle school and a high school that my dad went to, and my dad was, my dad raised me well. He did a great job. Like no qualms with my dad. He was never bad to me or anything like that. We just kind of got drugged through the muck. And because he was very successful at one time and lost all of it, and it, kind of just destroyed the family and everything, he became like very, just angry at the world, angry at God, and angry at my mom and just women in general. And I was self-aware enough to realize, like, I don't want to be at home around this, even as a kid, whether you knew that you want to be home around, it's just uncomfortable. So you were outside, and I spent a lot of my time like running the streets, just playing outside, being outside with kids. And because of the neighborhoods we were in, there was a lot of like kids in similar situations, parents that were struggling with the same struggles. And I found like bond in the streets. I didn't have a brother. My sister's older than me. So she kind of like, as things got unstable, she kind of like took off and started to do her own thing and try and be independent. So I was kind of alone a lot. And I sought that like connection out with these kids that I was meeting in the streets. And it got to the point where, when you're a kid, like the stakes are low. You're like, you're like stealing from 7-Eleven and you're like breaking windows and, like little stuff, but you get older and, especially for me, it was, I want to say it came from my dad, or maybe it was just from like having nothing, but I don't think it's that, because I've seen other people come from that and not make the same decisions I made. But I've always had this want to like, just kind of like succeed and call it growth, but like really to just like to work and to earn and to like save and build something and create like maybe that comes from all the uncertainty, but I want to like create a life that's like comfortable and secure. And as I grew up being that way, like, man, I can't wait to, I would work with my dad on like his job sites as he was working and stuff, getting side gigs. But the day I turned 15 and a half, I went down to the family courts, got a work permit, and got my first real job. I was like, I'm going to work. I saved every check, bought my first car. So I was always like, I'm gonna like grow, and I'm gonna get somewhere. I'm gonna create a lifestyle for me that's comfortable, and I'm gonna get out of all this. But a lot of the kids around me, for whatever reason, just, they didn't share a lot of that. And as we grew up and we went from like small time little kid shitty stuff, they started doing worse shit. And I couldn't like separate myself, I was just around them. That was like the community, that was the camaraderie, that was the brotherhood. And it got worse. We went from like, just like kind of like scuffling in the street with each other and stealing little like candy and shit like that, to guys like stealing cars, guys starting to carry guns, guys starting to like sell drugs, and then guys starting to sell like hard drugs. And then my buddies started like going, not to jail because we were so young, but they were getting sent out to like youth camps. And I became like, and I like, talk about lucky, man. This scar on my face ain't the only lucky thing. I've never been to jail, but I've been put in handcuffs 100 times at least, like just running around on the streets, being chaos and getting stopped by the cops. Gang unit we'd just be walking in a group, even if we didn't cause any trouble that day. Gang unit would see us, stop us, put us in cuffs, and take pictures of all of us and do like a bio on us so that they could keep track of like what's going on and who's who and where we're at. And my buddies, a lot of my buddies, I think it just from like the way my dad raised me and just like seeing some things firsthand at a young age. But I've always been very respectful of the police.
Going backwards a little bit, you mentioned that the oil and water that your mom and dad were, which kind of imploded the family, so to speak. Were you old enough to remember the drop off? Because you said your dad was very successful, had his company, but then it all kind of went away. Do you remember the good times, then the bad times?
I remember a little bit of the good times. I remember like when we were still a family, eating dinner together and some Christmases and like the big family room. You know, I remember the big house. I remember having a big backyard and being out, and he built a custom home in the middle of the desert in 1990. And like, you know, I remember like, you know, riding four-wheelers and having a little bit of that.
Each of us is on the grind. It's that early alarm, the extra rep, the drive that doesn't quit. Grind, spelt GRND, is the mindset that pushes you to go further when most people stop. Founded by a former Army Ranger, Grind Activewear is built on one simple mission: give 100% and then some more. Every piece of clothing is functional, durable, and made for people who outwork the rest. On the field, in the gym, or wherever you're building your next lane. This isn't just clothing. It's commitment woven into fabric, rooted in American grit and culture. Because when you wear Grind, you're not just wearing a logo, you're representing effort, discipline, and purpose. Check out thegrndcollective.com and use the promo code TRANSITION15 for 15% off your order. You're already on the grind. Now wear it.
But right around like 1995, 1996 is when he had like kind of lost control over the family, over his business. And I remember the night he came into my room. Shit. Sorry. Fucks me up every time.
There's Kleenex right down there if you need it.
But I just remember the night he came into my room and he was like, "I'm sorry. We're going to lose it all. I fucked up." And I was like, as a kid, I hear it. And feel bad for my dad, you know? And as I'm older, like, I didn't care about a lot of that shit. I was like, man, it made me tough, dude. Like, that shit gave me a lot of stuff that a lot of people don't have. Like, it gave me a perspective and a grit and like a strength and, you know, just an ability to thrive and like diversity, you know? But as I get older, it makes me sad. I think about that little boy, you know? But that was about the time.
From your dad's perspective, and I apologize for kind of harping on this, but it sounds like, and I've heard you explain this before, as a young boy, you don't really understand the power of love. You're like, how my mom, if I'm understanding it correctly, it's kind of like your mom was the catalyst for all of the bad shit that just kind of drew your dad in. Your dad was an adult. He made his own decisions, made his own bed. But it doesn't sound like he was that guy to start with. He just kind of followed your mom's path.
No, he was a guy in love and trying to help a woman and got caught up trying to be a part of her life and help her, and also in the caught up in like the time period too. Like the drug of choice they were doing was meth, and around that time, like, I mean, I don't know what it was like before that really, but from what I understand and what I can make sense of, like, people were starting to experiment with that, and in Vegas, you know, specifically, but I think my dad saw it as like a tool, like, okay, maybe if I use this, cause he was juggling a lot. He was trying to run this business, and my mom she just like wasn't doing shit that your wife should be doing. He'd leave money to, you know, buy groceries, take care of the kid, like do this so I can run this business. And he'd come home and she'd fucking blow the money or something. He'd come home, my sister would be in the crib for hours crying, you know, shit like that. And so he's trying to do everything. He's trying to like take care of the family and do this. And he'd hire like a housekeeper and shit. And my mom would come home and spin out and fire the housekeeper and, you know, scare him off and shit. And I think he started using it as like a tool, like, all right, I'll be able to do more sort of thing. I think he thought that it would help him at first. And, you know, it's this like super powerful drug. So it fucking said, no, you don't use me.
You don't dabble in
I
me.
use you, bud.
Yeah.
And then eventually, when money got weird, he started like making it, trying to sell it, and he did for a little while, and just, you know, everything, all the shit that came with that, you know.
Regardless of his personal decisions, your mom's decisions, something you said though is that you as a kid growing up, even though you were running the streets, probably doing some petty stuff with your buddies, there was the piece of you that was like, I can't cross that bridge. I know where my boundaries are. And it kind of sounds like it was instilled by your dad. In that time when things were just really bad, do you remember having conversations with your dad of like, hey man, don't follow the same path that I did. I see you running the streets. You're starting to make, crappy decisions. Or was your dad so far into his life that you just kind of, and I'll use the word disappeared?
It was a weird. It was a mix of a lot. I think in the beginning, like when he was first, like when we first lost everything and we were trying to, like he was like, basically we were falling down into the streets. Really, it was a lot of he was using a lot, and maybe through like elementary school into middle school, I didn't get like necessarily a lot of like not a whole lot of guidance from him. I mean he still raised me and he was there, but he was like, he had lost his company and he had to like go back to work for the union. So now he's working like just longer, different laborious hours. Whereas before he was like running things, and everybody that was mad at him for going up on the way up is now seeing him at the bottom and they're kicking him at the bottom, and so he had his own turmoil and he lost everything and he's mad at my mom and he kept kind of letting her come around and she would come back in and out and float through. So he was going through it, and that's another thing is I was, I don't know. Like I said, I feel like, maybe it was from all that, but I was like very self-aware at a young age. I was when I was real young, like I just kind of saw it all and I knew what was going on, and it frustrated me because I was like, why don't you guys just get your shit together?
Right.
Like, come on, like just stop. Just like, what are we doing? And it just made me like kind of like take control of my own shit. Like I started doing my own laundry at 6 years old. You know what I mean? Like just, if like, I can't rely on you guys, so I got to do it. And eventually, as I spent more time in the streets and as he started to like clean himself up because he realized like, all right, fuck, I gotta get off this shit. Like this is bad. I gotta figure this out. There was a lot of like close calls and shit. When I was in 4th grade, our apartment got raided and SWAT team came in, kicked our door and destroyed the place, beat up my dad and all that shit and took him to jail. And I got taken by the state. I got put in child haven for a little bit. And that kind of shit like started, I think that scared him enough that like he started like coming around, and not coming around like he wasn't present, but like just starting to be like, all right, I gotta take care of my son. Like I almost lost him and da-da-da-da. And by the time I got to like middle school, right as I started getting to high school, there was definitely a lot more like, hey, like look out for this. Like, people are like this, but it was also like, at that point, I was like, I grew up real fast, So by the time he started talking to me about that stuff, I was like, dog,
yeah, because you're in that worst period of your life because you've got enough age and maturity now to start thinking that you understand the world. You've spent now the last 8 or 10 years looking at your mom and dad going, I don't like what you're doing, and now you want to try to tell me how to be better. Right.
And it wasn't like in a reprimanding way. He was like, I didn't get into enough trouble where he felt like he had to be like, you can't do this, and that's another thing is I was like, even though I was a little chaotic child, I was smart. And that was a lot of our conversations. He would sit me down. He goes, I know you're smart. He's like, he's like, you're smarter than I was as a kid. Like there's something going on with you, and like, but still, just like be careful, because I can't be there for you, and I know you're out in the streets running around. He's like, just God, be careful, please be careful, and yeah, he just he would try to like. And a lot of conversations are like that, even now as an adult, like we'll be
probably
talking.
More like a big brother than a dad.
Yeah, that's it. So for a while, it was like when we were like straight up homeless, living in his truck, it was just me and him, and we it was more like a we were friends, also, but like he's my dad, but because he didn't have his shit together, it was kind of it was hard for him to like come from a place of like, hey, do this or whatever. And it, I grew up really fast. So even if he was giving me advice, I was like, dog, I'm like 2 miles ahead. Like I already know, like I know it, just like all kids do. Yeah. Oh, I know, I get it. Yeah. But also like having a lot of the experience and like just a lot of self-awareness already.
You mentioned that it was your grandparents that came to Vegas when your dad was young. Grandfather got a job as a card dealer. Mm-hmm. Was there extended family still in Vegas that you were connected to?
On his side, no. So once my dad graduated high school, his whole family left. They went back to Mississippi. And then he was kind of out here by himself.
And even do you remember if there were ever conversations like when he got to his worst, hey, maybe I should just go back to where family is?
No. So that's another like shitty side to it is when my dad was like doing really well and making money, he was helping everybody, their house needs a new AC, you need the new car, you're starting a business. My dad was giving money out to people and like helping the family. And then when everything started going south and, he had like refinanced the house to try and pay for payroll on the business and he lost this and this is coming through and he realizes, oh shit, I'm going to lose the house. He went to them to be like, hey, like you guys got to help me now. And they were like, no. And for, I can be angry at that and he can too, but I think a lot of it was like they saw him, hindsight 2020, a lot of people told him like, yeah, my mom's name's Tony. He goes, people would tell him like, you got to get away from her, man. Like even my mom's family were like, Steve, like, what are you doing, man? She's hurting you. She's going to drag you down. And a lot of people like shunned him because they're like, we can't help you because you're
a cancer that we can't bring around us.
Right. So they didn't help him and it pissed him off. So we kind of like stayed away from that side of the family. Actually, now I think about it, one of my uncles, my Uncle Roger, I think he moved back for a little while to Mississippi, but then he did come to Vegas later on and he was kind of spent some time at his house often. I bounced around at like my grandma's on my mom's side for a little bit, here and there, and then my Uncle Roger's for a little bit as well. But mostly my dad's side of the family they were all gone and we kind of detached from them a little bit.
I want to get into the scar on your face and that aspect of the story because I think it's a catalyst point for really what turned your life around. But at that point, you're 15, 16 years old. You mentioned that you already, when you were 15 and a half, you went and got a work permit. You're already starting to look at, hey, how can I be more independent? Did you have any aspirations though beyond high school at that point? When I was getting to the age where I started I was working with my dad and I was like, all right, what am I going to do? I was getting like anxious about like, all right, well, what do I do? How do I get that? How do I move up out of this? And it was mostly just like about money. It was like, all right, I just got to make money. I got to make money. And because my dad worked construction, I was like, oh, I'll probably get into some construction stuff, I'll maybe, I started looking at like high paying stuff, like, oh, maybe I'll go work on an oil rig, at that time, like Armageddon had come out, that movie. And I was like, dude, the scenery changes, they let you play with explosives and shit, and you get to travel the world. It's like, yeah, maybe I'll do that. And it just became like, I just wanted to work and make money. And as I was like, so I got that job and then the next like year, so I bought my first car, and then the next year I got a job as like a lifeguard at the Riviera Hotel. And you're still in high school at this point? Yeah, I'm like 15, 16. And trying to think of what other job I had or what I was doing right before I joined. I think Riviera, and then I think of where else I worked. I'm blanking on it. Maybe that was it. Because I joined when I was 17 and a half. Now you mentioned that you got jammed up a bunch of times by law enforcement. You got put in handcuffs a bunch of times, but never actually got arrested to the point that you could have gone to prison. Right. But was there one specific event that really for you was like, oh shit, that was close. I need to get out of this life? Many, a lot. There was a lot. I'm so lucky. God. And it wasn't, that's another thing is it wasn't even me. Like I was like, I was wrong place, wrong time. Well, wrong place, wrong time. But I was looking for that camaraderie. I was a little bit of, I was a young adrenaline junkie kid running the streets. It being, it's just exciting to like, just to like run from the cops or get into a situation where it was scary, and I liked, I've always been, being a comic now, it all makes sense, but I've always been like, like trying to crack jokes and talk shit and make people laugh. So my friends they liked me around because I was like, I was goofing and having fun and I was talking shit. I was like, I'd say crazy things and stuff. And I wasn't, by the time I like met like a group that I was like, oh, this is my group, like right around like 7th grade, I was already like so calloused from all the shit I had experienced that I was like, I just wasn't afraid of anything. Like nothing could shake me. I was
was like damaged, but I didn't realize I was damaged. I just thought like, I'm fucking, like I know it all and I'm tough, you know, like I'm like, and a lot of these, that's another thing is in a way, it's really weird to think about it, but in a way I was, it's funny. I was such a little kid. I didn't grow until like literally the summer before I joined the Marine Corps. I was like such a little guy all my life, but in a way, because of like my confidence and my ability to like, not speak well, but like to like speak and not be like hesitant and just talking shit all the time. Even though I wasn't doing the crazy shit, like, or I wasn't doing like the highly bad illegal shit, I was kind of like a leader's a strong word to use, but I was definitely someone that my friends like looked to. I definitely realize now that a lot of them maybe followed me into some shit, even though I wasn't there for the bad shit. I was just the one that seemed the most confident because I just wasn't afraid of anything, and I was thrilled by it. And I think they looked to that, and I kind of almost inspired them. But like, I never carried guns. I never sold drugs. I never stole fucking cars. I never robbed anybody. Any fight I got into, like, I was either fighting my buddies or like I was just in the group when some shit went down and I was just getting beat up with them. You know, I was never the guy to be like, yeah, I want to fight that guy. Then we'll fight him. Let's go kick their ass. That shit was never on my radar, and like getting beat up, I never sought that shit out. But yeah, it was a lot of close calls. There was many situations, specifically right around like getting into high school, just ending up in situations where, you know, like I said, I'd steal cars, but my buddies would steal cars and they'd come and pick me up and we go ride around in a stolen car and have fun joyriding and end up in a neighborhood that we're not from and just drive by some people and they want to fight. And my buddies are like, oh, you see them? They're looking at us. They're throwing our hands up. So we would like pull off the side of the street and we'd send our two small buddies around the corner first because we know that they'd start shit with them. They'd be like, oh, look at these fucking small assholes. And then like they'd start fighting our two buddies, and then the rest of us would come around the corner and be like, what's up now? Yeah, you guys wanted to beat up on our little buddies. And then we'd get into like chaotic shit in the street and all these people coming out of their houses and fighting. Now we're fighting adults and people are like getting like hurt really bad in the street, and I get like, you know, getting slammed and crazy shit. And like fleeing and getting back in this car and flying through neighborhoods and hearing the helicopter and hearing sirens and like just barely getting far enough away and getting out of the car and just being like, whoo, oh fuck, man, like Jesus Christ, like just like reeling off that shit and like trying to be like, all right, let's get out of here. But also like when the opportunity, not the opportunity, but when the situations arise again later, like you would feel that like, oh shit, here we go. And it would just be like this adrenaline pump, you know, you get that dopamine hit, and there was nothing else to do. That was another thing. There were no fucking podcasts. I didn't play sports. My dad got me into like boxing and stuff for a little while, but we didn't have money. So like, that was like, after 6 months of that shit, it's like, oh, you know, you're done. You don't get to like pursue that. So it was like, that was the thrill. You know, video games are cool, but after middle school, it's like, I don't fucking sit and play video games. It's way more fun out running the streets, riding bikes around and jumping fences and walls.
I don't mean this in a negative way, but it's going to come off negative. I could imagine if you really wanted to, based on the way you're talking and explaining the story, if you wanted to be more manipulative, you could have probably puppeted your friends to do a lot more and be the one to kind of stand back and like, hey, I'm not involved. And where I'm going with this being negative, I kind of equate it almost to like a Charles Manson. You know, where he had that ability to speak. He had that ability to say the right things to the right people at the right time to get them to do his bidding. And where I'm going with it is, had you been somebody who wanted to try to be more controlling of people, it sounds like you could have maybe crossed that bridge and all of a sudden started being the puppet master to your buddies.
Definitely. I think about this a lot because my mom was very manipulative, and because I was so young and watched not just my mom, but watching drug addicts interact with each other, I have a very high like sensitivity for manipulation because of that. When people are talking to me or whatever, social situations, I just, and it's hard because, you know, that's just like human nature. People are, you know, we all want something, and people are, that's business, that's commerce, that's social life. People are trying to like, you know, connect and, you know, you get this, I get this. It's natural. But like, it gives me like, sometimes it gives me like a weird, like,
your defense walls go up a lot quicker than most other people.
And I had to like train myself out of that, you know, particularly in even romantic situations, you know, like not trusting women. But it's like, no, man, women are social creatures, and it's not manipulation. They are also trying to survive in this world, and the way they speak and the way they move through this world is not out of you know, like an evil place. It's literally a natural thing for people to move about life in a way that protects them and keeps people, you know, in their place and keeps a safe environment. But luckily, I don't think I have that gene for like wanting to like be like vindictive to people like that. But like I said, I certainly, and that was another thing is, so a part of it was like the confidence and just like the shit talking. And the other thing was like, I think just, not that my friends didn't grow up rough too, but I had just been through so much by the time I got into middle school and found these kids that they just, I was the grown up, and I have been in my friend group for a long time. I've been like the dad, you know, I've been, even in the Marine Corps, I was the dad. And even now, like as an adult, like I'm a comedian, you know, I love to have fun and talk shit, and I'm on stage. But like, it's really hard for me sometimes in social situations to, people think I'm like very serious all the time. And I'm like, oh, I'm not, dude, I'm happy. Like I'm chilling. But the look on my face is just like, you know, I have a scar on my, it's just a lot it's a lot. And I have to like constantly be aware of all that shit. But as a kid, I think people saw that, and I didn't even realize it was happening because also I was a little guy too. And it's not that I wasn't afraid of like anything, like, you know, I get scared and shit like that. But I think my friends saw that, and without me knowing, because I'm the little guy and I still get beat up, and they're doing crazy stuff that's like, oh, I don't want to do that. Like I wasn't aware of the power that I even had over them, you know? So I don't think it ever could have been that crazy of like me, like using them and shit like that. But
you're definitely a psychologist's thesis paper.
Yeah, oh God. Yeah, I know. I bet. Every time I talk to like my therapist or a psychologist or something, it's a long podcast. It's a long one.
When they get that look on their face, like, oh shit, you know.
Sometimes they'll, not often, but every once in a while, I'll have like a new, you know, practitioner or something, and they'll go, I've never heard that before. You go, oh, thanks, I guess.
Buckle up, it's just starting.
Yeah. Like, come on, man. You like, sometimes you'll be like a younger therapist. You'll be like, okay, I get that. You're probably new. But when an older therapist goes, oh, I've never, you're like, oh shit, you know. But yeah, I don't remember where we were going, but
let's hit the scar story on your face, since we've bounced around it a bunch, and then we can get into you getting into the Marine Corps.
So yeah, everything started to escalate, and by the time I was in high school, we were getting into fights like every day, every night. If we weren't fighting each other, they were fighting guys over drugs and money and shit.
Were you even going to school by this point?
Yeah, I was still going to school. I was still going every day. I never like dropped out or nothing like that. I went to school every day. My grades weren't great, but I wasn't like failing either. But things were escalating, and again, I'm just hanging out with these guys, and it was on 4th of July one year. We're hanging out. It was a big group of us, and we're drinking beer, and we're like getting ready to smoke some weed. And this buddy of mine is like, he's one of the ones that likes to fight. He was like looking for action that night. He was just like looking, you know, it's 4th of July, so there's like people all over the streets and running around. We're in this neighborhood. And he's like, man, I'm gonna get into it tonight, you know. Like he's like, we're gonna get into it tonight. And I'm just like there for, you know, just like every other day. Yeah, man, I'm here. What's up? You know, let's hang, you know. And at some point, he's out in the street, and this truck drives by, and the music's playing real loud, and it slows down by him, and he like walks up on the truck. And again, we're like 16 years old, and he's a little guy too. He's like small. He's about the same height. We're both little guys, but he's like like a skinny, like Hawaiian kid. And he starts like talking shit to these people in the truck. And then they start like talking shit back to him, and he starts fucking punching on the window and shit. And that person gets out of the car, and it's like an adult. And he's like squaring up, fighting with this adult. And then all the doors open on this truck, and everybody gets out, and they surround my buddy. And I'm with like, there's like 10 of us in this like apartment complex hanging out on this wall right by this street. And when everybody gets out of the car, I immediately hop the wall and I run out into the street to go up there, thinking that all these guys were coming with me. And I was the only one that made it into the group. And we're just in the street throwing blows. And I remember getting like hit in the neck and the chest. And I don't even remember getting hit in the face. But I remember getting hit in the neck and my chest hurting and shit like that. And it's like there's people all around you and you're getting like pulled. And somebody from our group had finally made it up the street, and they put a gun to the chest of the guy that I was fighting. And he puts his hand up. He goes, "Look at your face." And he had one of those like old school straight razors in his hand, like a big old neon handle cowboy straight razor for shaving. And I was like, oh shit. And I reached up and put my hand in my face, and I was like, oh fuck. And I like ran back up the street into my buddy's house, who was also like an adult, like a fucking 25, 30-year-old man. We were all hanging out around his house. And I ran into his kitchen, and he had a big mirror above his sink. And I remember taking my hand off my face and just seeing it open and being like, oh, fuck, man, I fucked up. And his wife or his girlfriend brought me like a clean washcloth to put on my face. And I put it up there. And to this day, if I smell that detergent, I'm like right back there in the kitchen. It's crazy. Yeah, I guess like someone had called the cops, and everybody like split up and ran away. And I don't know who the people were, wouldn't recognize them if I did, you know. And put me in the back of an ambulance, and 32 stitches later, I'm in the hospital, and my dad comes to pick me up, and that was kind of a wake-up call for him too. He was like, oh fuck. He's like, this is not like, he was mad, but he was also like, we gotta get out of this neighborhood. Like you gotta stop. You can't hang out with these friends anymore. And for like, a couple months after that, I did. Like I was at home a lot, and and just going to work. And then inevitably I started just hanging out with those guys again, being out in the street and being around them. And that was kind of this. That was 4th of July, 2007. And that year, my junior year, the middle of my junior year, when they released us for like winter break, I went into the office. I got my transcripts from the high school, and I went to the community college of Southern Nevada. And I was like, I want to take my GED. Here's my transcripts. And they let me take it. 2 weeks later, I got the test results. I passed. And I tried to go to the Navy. I went to the Navy office. I was like, I'm going to be a SEAL. I went to the Navy office. I was like.
That whole process, though, of deciding to take your GED and then to go talk to the military, was it literally like a snap decision? Had you even thought about the military before that?
No. So that's another thing is I found out that I had taken the ASVAB because one day at class, they were like, anybody want to take the ASVAB? And I'm like, what's that? And they were like, well, you'll miss periods 2, 4, and 6. And I was like, oh shit, I'll take that. And I went to the ASVAB testing center, guessed on every question, put my head down, and went to sleep. I got a 78. And so, fast forward, now I'm having this moment in my life where I'm like, I have to get out of here. And this is around the time my buddies were getting shot. They're going to prison. Everything was getting crazy. My face. And I'm just like, I don't want to go to jail. I don't want to be, I don't want that. And I was like, if I stay here, and even if I don't go to jail, I'm going to end up like working in the union for my dad. And at this point, like my life wasn't great, man. I was like, I was like kind of depressed, and I was angry at the world. And I was, even though I was like trying to stay away from my dad in the house, like it was getting to me. I was like, I was in a negative place. I was a negative kid. And I was like, I'm gonna join the military. That's
well, not to overgeneralize it, but what you experienced as a kid, separate from making your own life decisions and running with the wrong crowd and everything else. I hate to say this. I mean, no kid should have to experience that. No kid should have to grow up in that type of environment to where hanging out and running the streets almost feels normal or natural to you.
Yeah.
Because you really don't know any better. You may have been mature compared to your buddies, but you were, not mature at all.
Right. Yeah, no, you're a kid. But brain chemicals still pumping, going through puberty and shit, still developing. And because, even though I grew up and saw a lot of like very serious things happen, it gave me a lot of perspective. And my dad, still taught me a lot of great things. There was a lot of things that I like. My mom my mom was almost never there. And then when I was right around when I was like 15, 16, my dad finally like didn't tell her where we moved to. And I didn't see her. I hadn't seen her since I was 16, like 15 years old. And so there was a lot of shit that I just didn't know. I never got.
Right.
Yeah, so I was like, I got to get out of here. I have to go. And even when my dad found out, he's like, you want to join the military? Because I've never, like, we're not political. We weren't like a patriotic family. Although on my mom's side of the family, a bunch of my uncles were in the Navy. And actually my dad too, my Uncle Roger, he got drafted in Vietnam and he joined the Navy as well. But I never even thought about it. I didn't even realize that till after, like I knew they were in, but I never even like occurred to me like, oh yeah, until I was in and I was like, oh yeah, I do have like family that was military. But I was like, I just got to get out of here. And when I walked into the Navy office with that GED, they were like, we're not taking GEDs. We put you on a waiting list. I'm like, no, I got to go. I got to get out of here. And so I just went right next door to the Marine Corps office and I was like, well, you guys, and they're like, we're not taking GEDs, but what we can do is we're going to send you to this like test out school. It's like an adult ed school. We'll send you there for a week. You're going to basically take a GED for every subject, like English, math, all the shit. Pass that, we'll get you an adult ed diploma. Then you'll be ready to go. And so I did that. They sent me there, tested out of it, passed, got another diploma. And I was scheduled to join. I was scheduled to leave 2008 on September 15th. I was supposed to be a motor T. I had like a $10,000 sign-on bonus. I was going to even be like, you get like get rank in boot camp. Like you get like PFC and did
they give you options or, I mean, were you basically told motor T?
Basically that was like what they had. And I was like, that's another thing is I was just in such a rush that I didn't care.
I'll take whatever you got.
Yeah. I was like, I got to go. I need to get out of here. And I was in such a fucking rush that I shot myself in the foot. And I was like, once they gave me that date, I was like, that's cool. But they gave me that date in like May or something like that. I went to like MEPS in May and they were like, all right, this is your date. This is when you're going to go. And I came back home and I'm like, all right, I got my date. I'm in the delayed entry program. I'm running and stuff and getting in shape and getting ready for boot camp. But I told my recruiter, I was like, hey, if someone drops out of this program and you have a spot open up early tomorrow, like I'll leave now. I don't need to go see it because my dad had already signed all the papers. I was like, I'll leave right now if you tell me. And he was like, all right, if something opens up, we'll let you know. And sure enough, someone dropped out and it was a new contract. He was like, all right, we got one. You'll leave 20 days earlier. You'll leave August 25th instead of September 15th. But you won't be motor T, you'll be a machine gunner. And I was like, I don't care. That sounds cool too. Let's go. He's like, and you'll lose your sign-on bonus. And I was like, nah, I don't care. Whatever. He goes, and you're going to have to be a reserve. And I was like, what is that? I didn't know what that was. I was like, what is that? And he goes, so basically you'll go to boot camp, you go to machine gunner school, and then you'll come home and you'll check in with a unit here at Nellis Air Force Base. And then you'll be with them 1 weekend out of the month, 2 weeks out of the year. And then when they deploy, you'll deploy with them. And I was like, oh no, I don't want to come back. I want to be gone for like 4 years. I want to go out. I need to leave. And he's like, oh, well, you could just put your papers in to be active. And he started, he's selling me. And I was in such a rush that I didn't, I never even start to think that like I was being, not tricked, but I didn't stop to think. And
so was he basically just filling a reserve slot he had to fill?
Yes. And it was basically, he was like, so the unit that you check in with, if you go to, so you'll go to boot camp on August 25th, it's 3 months, you'll be home for a week, and then you'll go to machine gunner school, and then you'll get out in February. And your unit that you check in with goes to Iraq in like March or May. So you'll check in with them. You'll just go to Iraq. And what you do is before you go to Iraq, right before you leave and you check in, you go, I want to transfer to be active duty. And you fill out your paperwork. They'll submit your paperwork. And that paperwork takes a while to go through, of course. But you'll go to Iraq for 9 months. Then you'll come home. By the time you get home, your paperwork will have gone through. You'll be active duty, no downtime. So you won't have to be home. And I was like, done. God, that's perfect. I get to deploy. So like the adrenaline side of me, like, oh, sick, I'm going to get to go, and I was like, kind of like sad and felt kind of weird about my future. So I was like, worst case scenario, I get to go die in Iraq. Like this is going to be thrilling. Like perfect. Let's go. And so I go to boot camp, go to machine gunner school, don't get recycled. Everything's fine. I come home to check with my unit and they're like, oh no, they started their workup in October. You're not going to Iraq. You're here. And I was like, oh shit. Okay. Well,
how'd you like boot camp? I say that rhetorically, but how was it for you?
It was great. It was the first time in a long time that I got 3 meals every night, and I slept in like a bed every night and got 8 hours of sleep every night. It was crazy. Like a lot of people don't realize that about Marine Corps boot camp, that you get in boot camp, they make sure you have 8 hours to sleep every night, but the rest you just chaos the other time, but they make sure you're sleeping every night. And it was hard physically. You know, I wasn't a fat body, but I wasn't like in great shape. And I was.
And
like,
you're still not 18 at this point.
Now 17. I was excited, and I was like nervous, and I was a little homesick, you know, as you get.
If you're like me and you love your coffee, my go-to lately has been Blue Line Roasting. They're a Tennessee-based and law enforcement-owned company, roasting small batches of premium beans. You've got choices from Patriot, which is their light roast, to Failure Drill, their dark roast. They roast all their beans fresh, within 48 hours, and ship them to you even faster. You can also get your beans ground for you or delivered whole. Your choice. But here's the cool part. A portion of what you spend goes to support law enforcement families dealing with the impact of line-of-duty injuries or loss. You get an incredible coffee, and they get the help they need. Choose a single bag, a sample pack, or start a subscription so you're never out of coffee. Oh, and shipping is always free. Also, for the listeners of this podcast, use the promo code TRANSITION10 to get 10% off your purchase. So head over to bluelineroasting.com and make every cup count.
It became, once I realized like, oh, like they have to feed us and they have to let us sleep. Like no matter what's going on at night, we're going to go sleep for 8 hours. And in the morning, we're going to get breakfast. And then in the afternoon, they're going to feed us again. And then at night, we're going to get dinner. I was like, oh, I'm fine. Like it was like, oh, like, and then all the stressful shit because I had grown up in such uncertainty and stress. When things like got crazy and people were like breaking, you know, they control the count. Everything's being counted. 5, 4, 3, 2. Everything you do is like this, and guys would like break. They'd start crying and freaking out, and I would get in trouble for laughing a lot because I was like, this is like, it's hard to take it seriously. It just felt like a big like dramatic thing, and I get for a purpose to get people to be able to operate in that. But I was like, it was just like.
So it's not that you were undisciplined. It's just that you saw how the game was played and you're like, hey, just play the game.
Yeah, 100%. And I wasn't the only one. There were guys there that were like that. But that was my point of view. Is I was like, yeah, like this is. And at that time, like, I mean, we got manhandled a little bit, but like at that time, like the Marine Corps changed a little bit and they weren't beating on us, you know, there wasn't any of that. You just, you know, you get like PT'd and you get like roughed up a little bit, jerked around and thrown and stuff like that. But it was easy.
Now, as a reservist, are you in a different platoon, different class, whatever you want to call it, or a reservist mixed in with regular Marine?
Everything's the same until you check in with your unit. Everything's exactly the same. And I remember when I found out, like, I wasn't thinking a lot about it, you know, it was like, yeah, because my recruiter had sold me on that. I was like, everything's gonna be fine. But I remember being at machine gunner school, and that's like, you know, from boot camp, it's like a whole different world. And I remember being with guys in there that I really like started to bond with, and remember like as we're progressing and we're getting to the end of machine gunner school and realizing like, oh, we're about to get our duty stations. Like you're going to get your orders and then you're going there, you're going to go check in, and like that's coming a couple weeks, we're out of here. And realizing that I was going back to Vegas and just getting nervous about it. And I had buddies that were like, they were going Force Recon and they were going to stay there on Pendleton. They were going to Horno or whatever. And I had buddies that were going to 29 Palms and guys that were going to Hawaii. And I was like, I remember like at the time being like, who do I talk to now? Maybe I can just switch now, maybe, and try literally. So my buddies that were in Force Recon were like, they were like, yo, because literally on graduation day, all they did was just take their sea bags and go to a new barracks. And they were like, you should just take your shit and come with us and just tell them you want to. Because at the time, by the time I got out of machine gunner school, I was like a PT stud. I was like, and I was so gung-ho. I was all about it. And because I didn't, like, you know, they say you're either a Bible thumper, a gym junkie, or an alcoholic, you know, and I drank so much in middle school and high school, but that I just stopped. By the time I was 18, I was done. I didn't want to drink anymore. So I just became like a fitness freak. And
for the outsider, is that progression from enlisting as a reservist and going regular, is it possible? I mean, can you just easily do that, or is it a process?
It is a process, and I find that out when I check in. So machine gunner school, we graduate, and I go talk to like some of the Force Recon like instructors, and I go, hey, this is what's going on. Can you guys, what can I do? And they're like, nah, man, you got to check in with your unit, put in your paperwork, and then you can come, but you got to go check in. You have this billet, you have to go. So I go home, I check in, and they're like, so I check in and I go, hey, I'm here, and Iraq, and they're like, no, you're not going to Iraq. Like, you're here, they're gone. I'm like, okay, well, I'd like to put my paperwork in to go active duty. And me not knowing that, like, you're a fucking PFC nobody. You have a billet here. You're here. You're not going anywhere. And they were basically like, no, fuck no. This is where you're at, bud. And I like kind of spun out. Not right in the moment, but I was like, oh shit, I'm back and I'm stuck. It didn't work. I just did all that. And now I'm right back here. And literally I was actually, when I came home, so I came home for a week. This is crazy. Another close call. Came home for a week so when I was in machine gunner school, they let us come home for Christmas. And I came home for like 3 days around Christmas, and I went and hung out with my buddies. And it was just one night I went and saw them, and we're hanging out in this apartment complex, and this giant fight breaks out. It's chaos. Cops show up. Everybody gets put in cuffs. A lot of my buddies are getting taken to jail. They all got priors and shit. And I have my CAC card on me. And these cops, I'm like 18 years old. So I actually got my Eagle Globe and Anchor on my 18th birthday. I'm like 18 years old. I'm standing in this apartment complex. I'm in cuffs in front of this cop car, and they pull my CAC card out of my wallet and they go, "You're a Marine?" I'm like, "Yeah, I'm just home. I'm in machine gunner school. I just came home."
What are you hanging out with these knuckleheads for?
So he pulls me aside. He like pulls me away from the group. He goes, "Hey man, all these cops are Marines. What the fuck are you doing hanging out with these kids?" He goes, "All these guys got priors. These guys are fucking idiots. What are you doing here?" I was like, "They're just my friends. I came home. I didn't, I'm just here hanging out." And he goes, "Get the fuck out of here right now and do not hang out with these guys ever again." And that was the last time I saw those guys. I was like, if that ain't the sign, bro.
Message received.
Yeah. So now I come home, I check in when I'm fully out of machine gunner school. I come home, I check in. They tell me, fuck no, you can't go active. And I'm like, well, then somebody fucking lied to me. Like I'm pissed, and I'm where I don't want to be. And this was like, the company first sergeant and all, like the CEOs in this office telling me this. And I'm just like, all right, well, I can't request masks because everybody's here. And you told me no. So I wrote a letter to Senator Harry Reid being like, hey, I'm a Marine. I'm a young Marine. I just checked into my unit. I was told that I could become active duty. My unit's telling me I can't. I really want to. I'm able-bodied. I'm hungry. I want to go serve. I want to be in the fleet. I want to go. Please tell me what I can do. Please help me. And me thinking like he's going to get it and I'm going to get orders in the mail like, all right, here's your shit. No, he called headquarters Marine Corps and was like, hey, there's a Marine being treated unfairly. They called me in. Why
is this idiot writing me a letter?
Oh my God. They called me in and they fucking chewed me out so fucking bad. They just had me in this office just at attention, just fucking, oh, that fire. They were pissed. But it kind of came on them because technically they were supposed to let me put my paperwork in. Now they could lose it and deny it or whatever. Right. And, say, give me the stamp of nope, you're not approved. But they just told me, no, you can't even submit it. So they did fuck up. And because they were like, who told you couldn't do this? No, nobody said that. I'm like, come on. And it became this, that was kind of like the first real moment of like realizing the fuckery,
You're just a pawn on the chessboard?
Not even a pawn, but just like that there's, I don't know. It's funny. I'm reading this book right now called The Invisible Man, and it's about this. It's a fictional story, but it's about this black guy, and I want to say like the 40s, and he's got like hope, and he thinks like if you're just good and you do good and you want to be great, like you talk people with the best intentions and things are, and no, the world's not like that. And it was kind of not that I wasn't naive, but I thought like, all right, this is the military, like there's some order and like I can have conversations with people and we can get this shit done. I'm not in boot camp. I don't have to speak in third person. Like I'm a Marine now. Like I can problem solve, and that's another thing is I grew up problem solving a lot. So I was like, all right, what can I do? How do I fix this? What do I do? Tell me step one. Where do we go from here? And then I realized that, none of that shit matters. You'll do what the fuck they say and they're in control and what doesn't matter, what you think doesn't matter, which is kind of like, I guess, a taste of maybe it could have been worse. I could have checked in with a real bad unit in the fleet and I just could have got more of that, but I would have gotten what I wanted. I'd have been where I wanted to be. But so it kind of like clicked on this switch for me where I was like, oh, you guys want to be cunts to me? You want to fucking lie and bullshit me and fuck me over? Okay. And I just became like, I just like turned on this thing that anytime as things go wrong often and leadership makes mistakes and you're constantly getting fucked over and people are dropping the ball and shit rolls downhill, I would speak up about it all the time. Because I wasn't afraid of anybody. I was a fucking PT stud. I was like, oh, you guys want to fuck around? Good. I'll call you out for it every time. And I'll crack jokes every time. I will fucking make sure that you're aware that it's not going to just go by like, oh, it happens. Yeah, it happens. But I saw it. We all saw it. We know it happened. We didn't like it. Just so you know, we know, and and then it became this thing where the shitbags, the poor leadership, the people who were like, just bad leaders for whatever reason, they hated me. They fucking hated me. And the people who were worth their salt, like, the reserve unit is full of a lot of guys that come off of a long service active duty and they're kind of getting out, they're doing their reserve time. And those guys checked into my unit. I met a lot of really good guys that like really helped me and became like older brother types and gave me that camaraderie and like validated me a lot too. And been like, man, you're not fucked up. Like you're a fucking good Marine and you should be in the fleet. And you've like, you're not a, reservists get this, like people are like, you fucking, reservists, this and that. And there's a lot of like, I agree. There's a lot of people in the reserves. You're like, these motherfuckers, man, what are we doing? But even though the shitbags hated me, like the good Marines, like the people that came from the fleet, the guys that were, like really people you did look to and you wanted to be like, and you wanted their guidance. They loved me. I had really good leadership as well from like we call like the middle management, the corporals and the sergeants and the staff sergeants and some of the gunnies and shit like that. But a lot of the like officers and some of our first sergeants and company gunnies and shit, they were like, fat body reservists, just like shitheads that for whatever reason they're checked out, and
I would imagine it's a numbers game to the leadership of your reserve unit. They have a certain number of bodies and they don't want to give up a body. But, and I'm saying this rhetorically, but you would think logically, 2008, 2009, it's the height of action in the desert. And you've got a young kid who wants to go active. 30,000 foot view. Let's find a place for him. It's not like it's peacetime and we can't find something for you to do. Yeah. There's work for you to do.
Yeah. And then I started like being like, well, fuck, if I can't deploy and I can't go active, what's going on? Like, what can we do? And guys in my unit were like, oh, well, there's schools. There's money in the unit. We can send you to schools. We can send you to marksmanship school. We can send you to like, we could send you back to machine gun leaders course. We could send you to like an extra thing like that. And so I started submitting for those things. But my unit, part of it was the people in charge. Some didn't like me, so they'd lose my paperwork. Or right before we were like, me and some other guys were getting ready to go to machine gun leaders course, and they'd be like, oh, like we were supposed to get your guys' blood work in. We didn't get it done. So it's not, you guys aren't going. It's not going to happen. You're just like, what the fuck, man? Shit like that would happen a lot. And then I don't know for sure, but a lot of the narrative was like that our unit was like spending money on dumb bullshit and like weird holiday bullshit for the leaders and stuff and not spending money on us and da-da-da-da-da. And then finally, at this point, like an annual training comes up and I get to go my first like annual training. We go to Bridgeport for a few weeks and it was fucking awesome. To this day, some of the best survival training I ever got. You're up in the fucking mountains and you're like just getting like smoked. But I was like living for it because at that point I'd become such like a fitness freak that I was like, the endorphin push would like, oh man, that blood pump, that just like feeling all the blood in your body go, like you're hiking from your thighs into your heart, and just that hardcore endorphin hit. I was like an addict for that shit. So I was like thriving in Bridgeport. I loved it. It was amazing. It gave me that like, oh, this is kind of what I want. It's kind of like we're out here, we're doing it. And what
time of the year did you get to go?
June. We went June.
So not super cold.
No, we didn't get like we weren't like parkas and shit like that. But it was still fucking cold.
Oh yeah,
it was very cold, and it was a lot of like being a machine gunner school, and even on MCRD, like you're hiking, they have you hike, but like they like put us through like you just like spiral up a mountain, so you never walk on flat ground. You're just constantly on the side, just wearing your ass out. But it was amazing. And then, we come back from that. And at this point, like I'm in Vegas and I'm like trying to stay busy. I get like 4 jobs. I start to lean into like staying busy and trying to earn and trying to put money away and create like a comfortable sense of security for my life. I went from like living with my dad, and we had just by the time I joined, we had finally like rented a house for the first time. We had been in and out of apartments and evicted and crazy shit. So like my first bit of stability, I get out, I come check with my unit, and I live with my dad, and he's like renting a bedroom from somebody, and we're there for like a couple of months, and then I move in with some buddies and some buddies in my unit, and I'm renting a room from him, and then I end up getting an apartment, and now I'm like, all right, I'm independent, I have control over my life, I have my own vehicle. I was working like 3 or 4 jobs. I was working like multiple security jobs. And I started a fitness training company. I was like, oh, I've like bought like tires and sledgehammers and medicine balls and rings and all this shit. And I would set up like endurance courses at parks, and I would like have people run through them, people that were like training for other events or just people that wanted to get in shape. And so I was doing that, and I was working security, and I was working so much that I would load my car up with like my work uniforms, socks, underwear, and like load a bunch of lunch boxes up, canned food and shit. And I would just leave my house for like 2 or 3 days at a time. And I would like sleep in my truck, like get to a job like a couple hours early, sleep, work, go. And I'd fall asleep at red lights a lot. But I was just like hustling. I was like, all right, I'm gonna put money away. I'm going to save. I want to build this company up. And then, did that for a little bit, and then fast forward, then the next time I got to go on another annual training, went to Belize for a few weeks in Central America, and I had never been in the humidity like that, and it was incredible. I thrive in that shit. I love the jungle. It was awesome. It was the same thing.
So the humidity didn't screw you up being a kid growing up in Vegas?
No, in fact, it changed my biochemistry, because after that, Vegas started fucking me up. The dryness started to get to me, which is so crazy, because like as a kid, I was outside all day, every day. My lips never cracked. My feet and hands never cracked. But as you get older, your body loses moisture and shit. But being in that humidity, I realized like I operate way better. Like my lungs, my skin, my joints, I just felt amazing. And like in the civilian world, like you don't want to be fucking muggy. It sucks, uncomfortable. But like when you're at work and you're doing laborious shit, oh, it's the best. You're like loose and everything's flowing. You're oiled up. So that was amazing. Belize was beautiful. Learned even more survival stuff in the jungle. Got more time to like have camaraderie with guys, and I really bonded with a couple of like good buddies that are still my really good buddies to this day.
Did your unit actually get to another workup to actually deploy to Iraq?
So that was the following year. So, and it was cool because I had gone to the jungle in Belize and I had excelled there. A deployment came up to go to Southeast Asia for like a big, combined training exercise shit, whatever. And they let me sign up for it, and I got to go. And because I had already been to the jungle, they were like, when we go to the jungle in Okinawa, we're going to put you in the cadre platoon. You're going to be like you won't be an instructor, because we're getting instructors from Japan. Like they're going to train us. But
you're one of the assistants.
Yes, you're good, because you already know a bunch of shit. And it was cool because I was like the lowest ranking guy with all these like fucking corporals and sergeants and shit. And it was like, oh fuck, oh cool, like here we go, this is dope. And then that was the next like year. That was in 2000, and so yeah, I checked in 2009 with my unit. We went to Bridgeport that summer, and then the next summer we went to Belize in 2010, and then in 2011 in March we left and went to Japan. And then in Japan we did their jungle warfare training, and then we jumped on a ship and just island hopped for like 6 months and went to like Thailand, Indonesia, Malaysia, Singapore, Korea, all this shit, and then came back up to Japan. And it was amazing. It was like, oh man, this is what I wanted. Like I'm gone. I'm like traveling the world. I'm doing all this badass training. It was like real Marine shit too, versus like being in the fucking desert, climbing mountains and sitting in the dirt. You're like practicing beach raids in like all these countries. Every country we went to, we got to like, get in the AAVs and rush beaches and run up into the jungle and set up fucking fire. Oh, it's so sick. It was amazing.
Was that a mission set or a primary mission set of your unit to be? Were you deployed as a training unit to these other countries?
Yeah, it was like there's like a damn acronym for it. it was called LF Karat, like landing force combined something reconnaissance and not reconnaissance, but something and training. Where basically, you know, you're in that theater of the world. If something, you know, you guys are there. If we need you, you're there. But also your reason to be there is you're exchanging training with all these partner nations where we're keeping up relationships and shit. And you're going to learn stuff and they're going to learn stuff and blah, blah, blah. And that deployment was awesome. But that was like another, it was also it was a lot of like reserve units coming together to do this. And it was a lot of like, oh, I thought my leadership was bad. Now there's all this, all these other shitty guys and it became this thing where it was like everything I was dealing with my unit, it was like that, but tenfold. I met a lot of like really good guys that were worth their fucking salt that loved me. Like and some higher ups too, like some majors and shit that were like, yo, you're good shit, D'Angelo. Like we like you. You're great. You don't stop doing what you're doing. But all the guys that were like, that were shitty that I would call out and speak up at the end of like, does anybody have any questions? I was the one. I was fucking the one. I was like, yeah, what's up? You know, what's going on with this? And then people would be like, fuck, dog. Like, don't ask the fucking captain that. I'm like, well, someone's gotta, like, these motherfuckers need to know that we're uncomfortable about like I can sleep on the ground and starve. But like, if we're doing it not as a part of training, but because you fucked up or because you don't care enough to like, you know, at one point when we were in Indonesia, and it wasn't even that big of a deal, but it was kind of like an example of like just them kind of fucking us over. We were in Indonesia and our ship got like tasked out. The ship that dropped us off got tasked out to go do something. Some ship left somewhere other place and they had to go like follow it. And so we got left on this hilltop in Indonesia for like an extra week. And like the military that we were with out there left us, and like, you know, they were like, okay, so our part's done, and we're just sitting on this fucking hilltop for a week with like no food. We got
I was gonna say probably unprepared for another week.
Yeah, no food, none of that shit, and it wasn't that big of a deal. Like we made it through, and it was exciting. It was cool. It was part of it. You know, that's another thing is you get so used to getting like fucked over that you're like, yeah, dude, this is it. You know, the Marine Corps is big on that shit. Where you're like, no, it's cool and it's fun and it makes you tougher. You know, this is the Marine Corps. When in reality, you're like, no, like sometimes people are making poor decisions. And our leader, yeah, just some of the guys, some of the leadership was just, they just, you know, and I don't know them. I don't know. Maybe those guys had some shit on them. Maybe their marriages or whatever. Maybe someone fucked them over. That's just how they learned. They had some poor leadership. I don't know. But from my point of view, it was fucking frustrating. And I wasn't afraid to get hazed. You know, I was like, are you going to make me run? Like, I'll fight all you motherfuckers, but like, you can't do anything to me. You can't make me uncomfortabler than I already am. So I'm going to speak up and make you uncomfortable because you're making us suffer when we shouldn't in a lot of situations. And the deployment I started like getting into trouble on the deployment. And at one point I got kicked out of the fucking cadre platoon because there were some snipers in the platoon, and I was like, they were being shitheads, and I was like kind of calling them out for it. And the gunny that was running it didn't like me. He didn't like me like calling out and cracking jokes on shit and being silly. And so I got put in another platoon, and eventually, you know, the deployment's like coming to a close, and I get lucky enough that while I'm on that deployment, I get an opportunity to deployment hop, where they're like, hey, do you want to sign up to go to the Black Sea? You'll be home for like a month and then you'll start your workup. And I was like, hell yeah, let's go. Oh my God, it's all working. That's how it's supposed to be. Like I could just have deployment hop. So I sign up for it. That deployment ends, we get home, and I'm home for like a month. I start doing the workup. We go to Texas and we do like the workup for that. And while I'm in Texas, my dad has like a fucking massive heart attack, and he has like, they crack his chest and do open heart surgery. And at this point, you know, fast forward, he's like been through the ringer in his life. He's been working construction for like 35 years, and his body's breaking down on him, and he's just living an unhealthy life. He did meth for 20 years, and he's stressed out and angry. And so his health's just like really bad. He lays in bed a lot. He's addicted to pain pills now. He's not doing meth, but he's taking Lortab and all that shit. And he's trying to deal with pain. And so I get home from the workup. We have like a week before we leave to the Black Sea. And like my dad has nobody, like there's nobody there. My sister's gone doing her thing, and my mom's, we haven't seen her. So I'm like, fuck, I have to stay home and help him and take care of him. So I pass up on the fucking deployment, and I stay home and take care of him, and he gets back to health and all that. And then it was right around that time. This was like 2012-ish. I start like getting like just like more than usual like back pain. I'm just like, like it goes from like soreness and like the tightness that you're like, all right, I just need to go like sit in the sauna and like train light and stuff, to like I'm starting to get like shooting pain into my ass cheek and down my leg. And I'm like, fuck, maybe I pulled something, or, I got like a twin, something's up. But like I'm like a monster. Like I feel great. I feel like I could fucking lift a truck, And the first like doctor I go to is like, oh, you need bed rest, man. I tell him like my lifestyle, what I'm doing. He's like, yeah, you're like working a lot. You're doing all this training, and you just your body's you need recovery, And at that point, if I'm being honest, like the Marine Corps and on me, I wasn't super educated on recovery and rest and what is for the body. I was like very much brainwashed by the pain is weakness leaving the body, go, and what's hard makes you stronger and shit, and it's good, you just push through. And I could for a long time, and it built like an endurance in me, and I was always the last guy standing, and I thrived off that shit. I was proud of it.
If 10 reps is good, 11's going to be better tomorrow.
Right. And the run's done, who wants to go for another run? That used to piss people off. We'd finish a run, I'd be like, that's it? You guys don't want to keep going?
That's a nice warm-up.
Yeah, exactly. People did not like that shit. And so my back started getting weird on me, and this doctor was like, bed rest. Just bed rest. Do not work out. Just lay it down. Take like a couple days. Just lay it house. And it got real bad. It got really bad to where like I was walking with like a hard limp. And then I started getting like crazy spasms in the middle of the night. And then I would like wake up in the morning and I couldn't get out of bed. And
no actual injury that you could attribute it to prior to that?
And they wouldn't give me a fucking MRI. Everybody was like, no, we'll have to do this. And then they sent me to physical therapy, and physical therapy flared it up and made it worse. And it got to the point where I was like, one of the security jobs I had, I was working for this great guy. He's really wealthy. He was a casino owner. And I stopped showing up for work. And he was like, where you been, man? What's going on? I was like, my back, man, I can't like stand or sit for too long. And I'm walking with a limp, and I'm in pain. I'm trying to figure it out. He's like, what do they got you doing? I was like, they just like, they're telling me rest. They're giving me pain pills. And I'm so like have an affliction for like substances that I wasn't taking pain pill. I barely take ibuprofen. And he's like, I got a guy. Let me send you to my guy. I was like, I have like military insurance. He's like, no, I'm going to pay for it. And he like paid for me for like a year to go to this physical therapist. And it changed my fucking life. But up into that time, like that first year from 2012 into 2013, like it was just getting worse. And, I'm still doing like, I'm going to see my unit 1 week in a month. And I talked to the doc, and I'm like, what am I going to do? Like, I can't run the CFT, the PFT. I'm like, my fucking score's going down. I don't want, like I could cheese dick it and finish out my term, but like, I don't want to be that guy. I don't like that shit. He's like, we can give you a new job or you can get out. And at that point, I had such like a bad taste in my mouth for what was going on in my unit. And I was like, there's nothing cooler than being a machine gunner. And I was like, I'm getting out. It's just, so they medically separated me. And so for another like 6 months, a year, I started like trying to like just not overdo it. And I had that was another one of my jobs. I was working valet at the Mirage, and I was making like really good money there, and I had to quit. I was like, I can't run. I can't fucking like do impact. It's killing me. And and then fast forward, this guy puts me in physical therapy, and it changed everything. I learned a lot about like the injury and what was going on and where I was weak, and just the symptoms and some like tough realities that like doesn't matter what's going on. Like you've done stuff to your back. You're like this degenerative. You have bulging discs and shit. You got stenosis, the nerve canal. Like everything's like crunching together. You're gonna have bad days for the rest of your life, but they're gonna come and go. And you just gotta listen to your body. You can't go 110 anymore. You can do 100 every once in a while, but you can't do 110 anymore. And you gotta learn to like coast around 60. You gotta just like maintenance. You can't push. You can't be an endurance athlete anymore.
So it was just a totality of you beating up your body.
Yeah, my lower back just was getting worn out, and I was getting sciatica down both legs into my feet. And it started on my right side, it got really bad, and then it started going into my left. And I was just walking with a limp everywhere, and then it started making my hip hurt, and then it started making my neck and my shoulder, like everything just is systematic. And I got like real fucking depressed because just around this time, like get my first deployment, I'm about to get the second one, then that one's gone. But all right, I'm building this fitness company, and I'm making money, and I got all these jobs I'm making. It's like, all right, but I'm like I'm getting it. My life's becoming together. I'm figuring it out. I got dude, I'm going to start a company just like my dad had a company. Everything's working out. And then suddenly you can't work that hard anymore. You can't be laborious. You're going to have to retrain. You're going to have to transition. You're going to have to figure it out. And I got real fucking scared. I got real sad. I was in my apartment freaking out. I got really depressed. I was like, fuck, man, I'm like, I can work hard, like, but I can't now. Like, what I'm gonna have to get into like sales or something. I'm gonna have to talk to people. I'm gonna have to like figure out how to like be white collar. I'm gonna have to get one of those jobs. And I was like, fuck, I don't like, I can like with Marines, I could talk shit all day, you know, with you know, a group of guys, like I'm fine, like it's the best. But I was like in a professional environment, like I don't know how to talk to people. I'm not confident. I'm like worried I'm going to say the wrong thing. I'm not good talking in front of a group of like normal people and stuff. So I was like, what do I do? And I've always been a writer. Like I've been writing short stories and crazy stuff or like jokes, or you hear a bar joke or whatever. I've always been writing stuff. And I was like, I should take one of my notebooks to a comedy open mic. And I should like, that'll get me over the nerves. You know, you talk in front of people. If anybody, that'll help. And that should be fun. And I was kind of going crazy because I just had a lot more downtime. I was like, I gotta get out of the house. Let's just go do that. And I went to my first open mic, literally the same month that I got out of the Marine Corps. It was October 2013. Yeah, like September, October. I went to this bar. It's not there anymore. Called Meatheads on Decatur and Charleston in Vegas, like a Detroit Lions bar, a little dive. Signed up for the mic, and I did. I think it was like 5 minutes or 6 minutes. And I didn't have like a killer set, but I had fun. And what's really crazy is through all my life, all the crazy shit, all the scary stuff, all the trauma and the wild shit, I've never been so scared that I lose bowel control. And before I was going up, I was so nervous because they give you like a in the hole and an on deck. You're like, all right, you have 3 more people. Okay, you have 2 more people. All right, you're next. And as it was happening, when there was 3, I was like, I gotta piss. Go piss, and I come back and I wait and I'd be watching the guy set and I'd be like, all right, you got 2 more people. Damn, I gotta piss again. And I go piss and I come back and all right, you're next. And I'm like, why do I feel like I gotta piss? Like I don't have to piss. And I would go piss and a little piss would come out. And then right as they're calling my name, I can feel myself pissing in my, I didn't like piss in my
right.
pants, but I could feel, I'm like, I'm pissing in my pants right now. Like I've never had this happen before. Like what an adrenaline dump. And I get on stage and I do the set and it was fun. I had a good time and I get off and it was like just that wild adrenaline dump. I was like, holy shit. Like, I feel like I'm high right now. That was nuts. That was legal. That was free. I'm not hurt. Nobody got hurt. I'm not in trouble. Oh, I'm doing this now. They got me. I was hooked. I was like, I want to do this now. Not like, I wasn't like, oh, I'm going to be a comic. This is what I'm going to do forever. I was just like, oh, I'm going to start doing this. Like, this is fun. And for about like 2 years in Vegas, I was, I got into sales. I started doing sales, making a little bit of money doing that. And I started, I was hitting open mics and stuff, having fun. And I got back into that grind mindset. I was working like a couple sales jobs and I got an opportunity to go to Chicago and I did some sales out there for a while. And I went to, it was crazy. So up until this point, I had only done like open mics and shit in Vegas and like very dive bar stuff.
Did you know anybody else who was doing comedy personally?
No.
So, I mean, because you use the analogy of, man, I need to get better at talking to people. And you've got to be the only person I've ever heard who's went, you know what would be a great training ground? Let me go stand up in front of a bunch of people and try to make them laugh.
Yeah, because when I started like thinking about sales, the people I started talking about, the jobs I was looking at, it was like, you got to be able to like, a part of it is eventually you get to a point where you're like giving information to people, like you're educating people on something. And like a hip pocket class for Marines is easy. Like I know machine guns, I could talk nomenclature, I can do all that shit. But like for the real world, like it's different, and it was daunting to me, It wasn't something that I felt at all confident in. So I was like, oh, where can I talk to a group? A comedy open mic, that'll work. Yeah, so I've like kind of, hobbying, having fun, and I get into sales, and so I go to Chicago, and when I'm in Chicago, there's this place, I don't know if it's still there, but it was in Aurora. It was like a little town outside of the city. And they had a club called the Comedy Shrine. It's like kind of like a museum, but it was a comedy club. And it was the first time that I had ever done a show in like a club. And I went in and like, it was like, you have like the room, like it's like a black box club room. And then outside of it is the bar. The server comes in and take orders. So you have like, everybody's facing the same way. There's no sports TVs going on. Nobody's smoking cigarettes. There's not, the door to enter the venue isn't there. It's a show. Everybody's attention's on you. And I went up and I did the mic and I fucking crushed. And I was like, I had never like crushed that hard before. And I was like, oh, this is what it's supposed to be like. Like, this is not that dive bar shit. Like, this is holy shit. I'm good. Like, I'm fucking good at this. Like, okay. And it kind of like got my brain turned. I was like, damn, okay. So I leave Chicago to go to NorCal to do I fucking got talked into the money center. I was making okay money in Chicago and someone talked me into going to NorCal because there was like solar was getting real big and they were like, oh man, solar sales. And they were like, they give you the leads. It's this, you're just coming in close. And at this point I was getting good at sales too. I was like comfortable and confident. And I was like, all right, let's go. And the money was like looking really good. So I go out there and we get there and we had to go door knock. We had no leads. And I was like, all right, fuck it. Let's go. Let's go knock some doors. So I spent like a summer out there knocking on doors and like, it doesn't occur to me that I have a scar on my face. And I'm knocking on people's doors trying to get them to trust me. And I'm like, no, I'm not getting any deals. And I'm just like, damn, dog, like, what's going on? Like, what am I doing? I came out here to make money. I thought I was going to have leads. I'm like, and I'm like sitting in my car and I'm out there like sleeping in my car too, trying to like just make money and hustle out there. And I'm like sleeping in my car. And one day I'm just having lunch in my car. I'm eating like canned ravioli and Ritz crackers in my front seat. I'm just like, dog, I know how to work hard. I'm good with sacrifice. I have discipline. I got to take this shit and I got to do something I like to do. I got to do something that's like, that I'm interested in, you know? And I was like, fuck it. I'm going to go after this stand-up thing. I think I can, I'm good. I don't want to do sales. I think I could lean into this and I could like, I think I could do it. I think I could figure out a way to like, you know, make it as a stand-up. I think I could lean into it, put all this drive and this ambition and focus into stand-up. And it's not laborious. It's a mind thing. So I started my car up and drove back to Vegas and I got like a shitty little retail job and I was doing like a little bit of sales on the side. And I just started hitting bar shows and open mics 7 nights a week. And I was just for like 2 years, I was boom, 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 just trying to get better. And I was getting better. I was growing, but I was like hungry. I was like really hungry to grow. And so I started coming to LA. What happened is a friend of mine had a show. This is a good story. A friend of mine, a comic, he had a spot at a Hooters on Hollywood Boulevard. It was a little comedy show going on upstairs. And at the time, so I signed up for like stand-up comedy classes in LA. And I was like, I just drove out once a week. They were like on Tuesdays. So it's like, I'm going to go out for that class on Tuesdays. And I was going out and my buddy was like, oh, you're driving to LA? He's like, I have a show on Wednesday. He's like, can I come out with you? I'm like, yeah, but we're gonna have to sleep in my car. He's like, I don't give a fuck. We'll sleep in the car. I don't care. I was like, all right, whatever. So we drive out Tuesday. I do my class and then we like hang out, do an open mic. And then that night we sleep in my car out by the railroad tracks. And it's so funny. The train came by so often that at some point it stopped coming by and we both woke up like, where the fuck's the train? This dude, his name, I forget his last name, but his name's Kyle. And he's a great comic, but he's weird, dude. He was born with fins, like not fins, but his fingers were together. So they had to he had bones in him, but they had to cut him and separate him. But because there was no skin between, they had to graft skin from his thighs and put the skin between his hands. So now the skin on his fingers is like thigh meat. So thigh hair grows there. It's crazy, dude. It's weird. But we go to this Hooters for this mic. And it's on Hollywood Boulevard. These guys are like barking people in from the street and getting them upstairs. And it's like this little underground show and it's tourists and it's like this cool vibe and it's like exciting and it's a great show. And we each get like 5 minutes on it. And the guy who's running it, he's a picture of him on my phone. He's my background. It's me and him. I go up to him after the show and I go, yo man, this is fucking awesome. Like you're running a great show here. I'm in town on Tuesdays. I'll stay on Wednesday. If you want help, dude, I'll help bark. Just give me some stage time, dude. I want to help. And he was like, all right, man, we'll see you next week. And I was like, sick. So I started coming out 2 days a week. I would do class on Tuesdays and then I would do that on Wednesdays and then I would drive back and I would sleep in my car overnight. And I did that for about a year. And in those nights, I would also go hang out at the Comedy Store. And I would sit in the OR and watch like guys like, Theo Vaughn and like Tony Hinchcliffe and Fahim Anwar and just a lot of these guys that at the time, I don't want to say no names, but they were like, they weren't big, but they were like really good, like real good. They would take this room, like this late night crowd of like drunks or people who had been sitting there for 5 hours watching a long show and just like get them because they were good. They had the timing, the stories, the delivery. They had the aggression, the hunger. And I was like, fuck, I have to move here. If I want to get good, I like kind of hit the ceiling in Vegas. I was like, I'm good. I got ballrooms. I got that. If I want to get good, I have to move to LA. I have to come out here. And at the time I owned a condo in Vegas and I was like, I'm not going to fucking pay my mortgage in Vegas and rent in LA. And I don't want to live with 10 dudes. Been there, done that. I was like, I'm just going to live in my car.
Let's be honest. We're hard on our sunglasses, especially first responders and military members. They get dropped, scratched, left on the dash, or crushed in our gear bags. Frontline Optics gives you the same premium quality and eye protection without the high price tag. Sure, you can spend big money on the designer brands, but why should you? From polarized UV 400 lenses to anti-reflective and water-repellent coatings, every pair of Frontline Optics glasses is built to handle the demands of the job. And here's the best part. When life happens and they break, Frontline Optics has a no questions asked replacement program, even for prescription glasses. If that's not enough, Frontline Optics was founded by a firefighter, and a portion of every sale supports the First Responders Children's Foundation, helping the families of those who gave everything. If you're looking for sunglasses that look good, are built tough, and that come from a company that gives back, visit frontlineoptics.com and use the promo code TRANSITION10 to get 10% off your purchase. Frontline Optics, from a first responder for the front lines.
So I ended up moving to LA and I like got my car ready, like set up my sleeping. It wasn't like, oh, I ended up in my car. Oh no, I'm homeless. It was like, no, I planned it. Like I set all my shit up, made it nice how I wanted. I got everything, the right amount of what I needed. And I moved out in 2017. And 4 days after I moved out, I got hired at the Improv as a door guy, the Hollywood Improv. And it was fucking amazing. I was like right into it. I had that show that guy was running. I was helping him so much that like when I first started helping him, it was like a wild show. It was like kind of like a little asylum, the inmates running the asylum sort of thing. And I started helping him, and I wasn't like, not that there's a lot of the comics in LA that, especially not that it's been that long, but 8 years ago they were. That group of guys, they were kind of just like fucking around doing comedy, and they were getting drunk and let's just doing the show, and it's whatever, we're just having, it's fun, And I showed up like wanting to grow and work and like with this problem solving mindset, and like, all right, let's and the dude who ran the show kind of like, he had a little bit of that in him, and I kind of like inspired it, steel sharpened steel sort of thing, and we started to like fine tune everything in that show. And there's a lot of moving parts. There's a comic named Todd Glass, and he's an old head, been in the game a long time, really good. He runs like kind of a one-man show with a band, but he's like real specific. We'll call it OCD, but he's like real specific about how to set a room up, how to train an audience, because, you could just be like, hey, show upstairs, go up there, people just sit down like, oh, show. Or, people come in and the person that brings them in is like, hey guys, do you like stand-up comedy? The conversation you have, you figure out, does this person want to watch a show? Are they really drunk? Are they foreign? Are they a cool guy? So you kind of like screen them. So you're
almost positioning them where they need to be in the crowd.
And you keep the riffraff out. So it starts at the curb, right? And then you get them up, you come bring them upstairs, and you're like building rapport. So you guys visiting local? Cool, awesome. You guys been here before? Awesome. You like stand-up comedy? Great. And you get them up in the room, and you're like, because you're going upstairs, now you start to lower your voice. Now you put them in the zone. You're like, oh, we have to be quiet up here. All right, so this is Sid. I'm going to pass you off to Sid. He's going to help you guys find some seats. Okay, enjoy the show. Make sure your phones are on silent. Bam, now they sit down, and it's not just like Hollywood Boulevard. Oh yeah, fucking show. Now it's just like it's chaotic show, and it's fucking, people get it. And we built the stage better, and we put up good curtains, and we made nice signage, and we just had we got the dialogue. I started running the street team for him and got the dialogue down for like talking to people in the system, and it became like this really good show. We were like fucking crushed. We used to always say it, but it was like the #1 underground show in LA. Like we were fucking dominating. It was a hot show. For the last 6 months we had that venue, You could not have a bad set there. It was amazing. But I was like running that on Wednesdays with him. At that point, I started taking improv. I was going to like Second City and Groundlings and UCB, and I was taking some writing classes, and I'm working at the improv as a door guy, and I'm like doing everything I want to do. I'm like, oh my God, I'm like, I was working like 120-hour weeks, but not being physical, not being crazy laborious, not like breaking my back, but like sleeping in the car. So I'm like a little rough on me, but I'm going to the gym every morning. I'm like stretching, I'm like getting in the pool, I'm doing sauna. So I'm like taking care of myself. And it was like amazing. It was 4 years. For the first like 2 years, it was like a dream. I would get off work at 2 a.m. and I'd be standing out on like Sunset or Melrose, and I'd be like, oh my God, man, I'm doing it. This is where I'm supposed to be. Fucking doing it, man. And then one night I got in my car and it was late and I was brushing my teeth and I reached in my backseat for a bottle and I filled my mouth and it was a bottle of my own piss. And I was like, oh, I don't know if I'm doing it. I don't know if I'm doing it.
Something you said that's interesting when I think about somebody wanting to get into comedy, you talk about you signed up to do the open mic nights. And when you equate that to when you were working the door and curating the crowd, I would imagine that has to be a huge factor in how well a comedian does.
100%.
Because if you go to just a generic open mic night, and you've got half the room is plowed hammered, they're not really paying attention, it's got to be completely different from your perspective as a comedian to all of a sudden, wait a minute, this whole crowd's into me.
Yes, and it's such a compound effect in so many areas because the performer suffers because the crowd's not a great crowd. They're not paying attention. They're not really there for comedy. They're there because they had nothing else to do and they just got thrown up there. So the performer suffers, but the audience suffers too because now the show sucks. So they think this is stand-up comedy. And they're being, belligerent or disrespectful. So now the performer's being mean to them. So now they're suffering. And then at the end of the day, you're at a venue. The whole business model for stand-up comedy is selling drinks and shit like that. So now your venue, people don't want to come to the show, or they're just not staying there long enough to spend a lot of money. So now your staff is suffering. So like the performer suffers, the audience suffers, the staff, it just becomes this like nightmare of everybody's not having a good time and people aren't making money and people don't like stand-up comedy and the performer hates the room. It can really be this like terrible thing. And I got really lucky that the first time I saw Todd Glass, I went up to him and introduced him. He had like a killer set. And I was like, dude, I've never seen you before. That was awesome. And then he came and like did the small room, does like a takeover for his show at the lab, and I watched him do everything, and I was working door in the room, and he was like kind of being like, hey, I need this and that, and I just like, took direction well. I was like a very high willingness to like accept change, very coachable, especially at that time. I was like really eager to learn and grow. And he just kind of like took me under his wing, and he's like, you fucking get it. He's like, you, and now like I work for him a lot. Every time he does a show, he just brought me to New York for New York Comedy Festival. I helped him produce that. Every time he does Netflix as a joke, and he brings me because we think alike. We get the nuance and all the important shit that needs to be done so that it works well.
I mean, there's a level of creativity to it, and I equate it to being a kid of the late '80s and going and seeing some up and coming heavy metal bands on the Sunset Strip and stuff like that. And I would imagine it's got to be the same way to a degree with comedians. There's going to be a circle who you're going to be interacting with. And you're going to be able to see the ones who are taking it seriously and want to get better, and the ones who are just looking like, okay, I got a night, Tuesday night, I'll be on stage. I'm thinking like from a musician's perspective, you're a band, you want your band to do well. You see a band that's just half-assing it. It's easy to see the ones who are really in there looking to,
yes,
what do I got to do to succeed?
Yeah. Okay. It's in Hollywood and LA, you see there's a lot of different, groups and a lot of different kinds of people walking around, and you start to see it like, all right, that's just a guy on coke. You know what I mean? Like he's funny and he's excited, but he's not here for the work. He's not here for the full everything that it takes. He's here for the good stuff, and he's here socially. He wants to have fun. He's trying to bang chicks and whatever, or he would love to make money, and yeah, he wants to be an actor or whatever. And then you have people who are like just genuinely like mentally ill, and that the stand-up comedy scene harbors a lot of like misfits and people and shit like that. So you end up like seeing like, people who are just like they just lonely, and this is a social thing. They're just an alcoholic, and it works well. It's a place you can drink and no one cares. And if you're talking shit, it works on stage. So you're just a drunk talking shit, but it's kind of funny. You got like the actors, people that are just trying to get better at their craft, and they think stand-up will help them, or they want to just diversify themselves, so they try to do stand-up as well.
Well, to bring it full circle to a degree, probably the greater majority of comedians developed that sense of humor and that sense of sarcasm as a defense mechanism, probably from what they experienced as a kid growing up.
Yeah, defense. I would even say like a coping mechanism, and there's a lot defense and coping, but some people, like I'm close enough to the fire that like some people just really are special, and sometimes you don't always get into it and find out what, how, or why people are like that. My buddy who ran that show, Stephen Holloman, he doesn't really do comedy anymore. He had a kid, and after COVID he moved back to Arizona, but he's a special guy, and I found out it's because his dad was like a wise ass. It's one of those guys that everything you said, he had something. That simple shit of like, what time is it? Time to get a watch. Just had for everything. His dad was like that. And he wasn't so much of an asshole. Steven wasn't, but he's like a wordsmith for everything. Every conversation, no matter what you were talking about, he would just take it, and now it's this. And it would, to the point where like people kind of like, it kind of rubbed a lot of people the wrong way, because he was always on. He couldn't shut up. He wasn't trying. It was just his personality. He just had it. He's like gifted, in my opinion. But some people are just special. Some people just have it, just their point of view and the way they think. Then, some people just live interesting lives and they have great stories. And some, people just come from different culture, and it's just so different to hear them talk that you're like, man, you could read a cookbook and I'd be laughing. Like it just, so there's a lot to it. But yeah, there's definitely a lot of defense and coping, and people's, just way to fit into, people's way to belong and bring, be valuable or be liked.
Do you find the more you got into it, you went to classes for comedy, do you pick your, and I'll call it a lane, in the sense of, are you a one-liner, or are you a storyteller? I mean, do you actually pick the style that you're going to lean into, or do you just kind of make the style work for the joke?
That's a really complicated question. In the beginning, I feel like a lot of comics will agree with me on this. In the beginning, it's very, for most of us, for 99% of us, it's very who you're watching, who you're inspired by. There's a lot of guys, like in the beginning, I loved Anthony Jeselnik, and I would watch him, and I was just impressed by like the writing, and it was like dark, and it was like edgy, and the delivery, and he's really good. And I modeled myself after that a lot, I to the point where like, you could see it and be like, oh, this guy's, I see it now. You watch a guy, you're like, oh, this dude watches Shane Gillis a lot. You sound like him. Or this, I got buddies, you hear him talk, you're like, oh, you're a Boston guy. You like Louis. You sound just like him. Your delivery's like him. And so in the beginning, a lot of guys say, in the beginning, you're just doing an impression of a comedian. So it's like that, but then, and for everybody, it's different. That's another thing, is there's really I believe truly, there's no way to do stand-up comedy except to just be funny. You don't have to be a storyteller. You don't have to tell jokes. You don't have to do impressions. You could bring a guitar on stage. You could joke. You do whatever you want, but you just have to make people laugh. Don't forget that it's comedy. That's the only rule. That's it. It's right in the name. Stand-up comedy. Other than that, you do whatever you do, whatever you want, whatever you want to try, however you want to figure it out. For me personally, my stuff is a mixture of stories and rapid fire. Like, here's this thought, here's this opinion, here's this wild idea, here's this point of view. And it's just like, it's difficult. It was difficult in the past, and it still is like a challenge to build like an hour, because I don't do that thing where a comic will like do a set, and then, at the end he comes back around and it's all one big, look what I did. I don't have that. And I don't want to try. I thought I had to have that for a while. I thought everything had to flow, and then it all calls back, but that's manufactured to me. And it feels forced, and it feels too clunky, and like it feels disingenuous for me to try and do it that way. I'm more of when I think about comics that I do model myself after now, it's Dave Attell is a very like this, then this, then this. And my transitions, like his obviously he's a master and he's been doing it a very long time. So I'll still stand by and say that he doesn't really have transitions. He might have longer bits, but he doesn't have transitions. He's just so good, so confident, so comfortable, and so in his material that it doesn't feel like a stop or like, does this joke connect to this one? It's just, nope, he's just telling jokes and here's this one and here's this one and here's this one. And if you're crushing, transitions are just laughter. You guys, I tell a joke, you guys laugh, I take a beat, here's the next joke. And now this one's a story, and that's it. That's my style is I have some stories and then I just like write crazy wild jokes and funny shit, and my stuff is definitely wild. It's my background, grew up wild in Vegas and joined the Marine Corps. And then, I'm just a single guy out here living life. I mean, I've been in some serious relationships and all that, but it's all the stuff the young man talks about, just life, love, and trial and tribulation and what the fuck's up with this, stuff like that.
From the outsider looking in, I equate it to trying to learn how to play sports. And if you're a young kid, you have your idols, whoever it is, Mickey Mantle, whoever. You want to be a pitcher, you're like, oh, I like that pitcher. And then you talked about as a young comic going in and sitting and watching other comics. But to me, I'm seeing that almost kind of a double-edged sword. In any other sport, you could mirror or try to be like that. As a comic, where you said it great, in that initially you start out doing impressions of a comedian that you've watched, but there's got to be a point where you have to evolve and say, I need to be Michael on stage, not an impression of somebody else.
Yeah, that's kind of like one of the called a learning curve, or one of the growth stages, or like a graduation stage that people hit at different times. And it's when you realize, like, or unfortunately, some people lack a lot of self-awareness, and those people are out there and you see them and, you just it's part of the environment. But for the most part, you start to kind of realize that, especially if you're like trying to grow and get good, and that self-awareness is like, you're like constantly like, all right, so no, I don't want to sound like that. I don't want to do that. But then also it's a comfortability thing too. Talk about a defense mechanism. You're up there, and for forever you're nervous and excited. It's a mixture of that. It's part of the fun. But for like the first X amount of years, for me, for like the first 7 years, I was like very unsure of like how to do it. Not that I know it now, like, oh, I got it now. Like I'm still figuring shit out, I still, like, every couple of months I get like a new, like, oh shit, oh, it's like this. Oh shit, I could do this. Oh, whoa, look at, oh fuck, that's me. But in the beginning, you're like, you're just trying to, you want to be good so bad, and you want to be funny, and you're so hungry, and you're constantly watching everybody. You get caught in an echo chamber too. Like if you have a group of buddies you hang with, you all kind of start to sound alike if you're not careful. But that comfortability, you start to get comfortable, more and more comfortable, and it's less of you not pandering, because that's a whole nother rabbit hole we can go down, but it's less of you trying to be funny and do these things that are funny. And it's more of you, I don't know, it's not that simple, but it's like, it becomes, you fall more in love. I did, it's different, it's not one way to do it, but I fell more in love with the process of just writing things that I think are funny and interesting and weird and wild, and being willing to be wrong, and being willing to bomb, and being willing to like experiment with your own genuine thoughts and feelings, even though it might sound corny or not funny, or people are going to hate it, or people are going to fucking put you in this box and go, oh, this guy, you're a fucking Republican, or you're a liberal, or you think this, or you feel this way, but you must be like this about women, or you must hate gay people, or whatever. You got to let all that shit go, and you got to go, no, man, I'm trying to be funny, and I'm trying, and then I'm working it out. And you start to depart from being so connected to like, I have to do what's funny, and what's funny is what these guys are doing. So I'll do it like this because I know it works and I really like this and that's funny and people will like that. And more of like, no, I'm good at this and I'm confident and I'm comfortable and I'm gonna go out on the edge and see if I really got this. See if I can walk without that, you know?
In a weird way, I would almost think that it's more beneficial to you to hold that center line so that you can make fun of both sides, as opposed to aligning yourself with one side, and that to the point where, well, shit, now I've gone so far, figuratively speaking, left or right, that I can't now, talk shit about the side that I'm more on there of, if that makes sense.
Incredible point is that then I think that's one of like Bill Hicks's, like he has like a list of comedy rules, but it's like you have to be able to make fun of both sides. If you pick a side, like you could still, there's plenty of like people who are on one side that have a giant fan base and they're successful, and that's not that it doesn't work, but I think it shows more like talent and ability to like think freely and openly and not be like, not put yourself in this like this, bias. And it doesn't even have to be political, but people start to put themselves in this echo chamber, and sometimes it becomes less about comedy and more about like this. It becomes more about like, trying to signal this is the way you should be, or this is what's really going on, or this is how you should think. And if you don't think this, you're fucking stupid. And I don't do that. I don't like that. I like to be free enough. That's another thing, is I'm not a political guy either. So I like that I have that freedom, that I can like talk about these people and at the same time be like, yeah, but also these guys too. Like I'm not worried about hurting people's feelings and like, oh, my fan base. Like, no, man, this is stand-up comedy. I'm not running for office. Okay. I'm not trying to be this like, I'm not trying to be this cultural figure. I just want to tell jokes, and I like doing it, and it's fun, and I'm good at it. And, if you like it, buy a ticket.
And I know people have talked about this, so I'll bring it up to you. We seem to be, in our society today, less able to just laugh at each other. It's almost gotten to the point where, everything seems to be taboo. Do you find that that's a struggle for you as a comedian, or is that more of the outsider's opinion of what people really like in a comedy show?
It's this really big gray area, because there are things forever. There's always going to be taboo subjects, just the way it is, right? There's people, whether it's like a cultural thing or people have, trauma, or they have their own things that hurt them. I mean, I'm a comic, and sometimes people will say shit on stage that makes me go, I got to get out of the room. That's just the way that is. But that being said, like, it kind of just comes back to like remembering that I'm here to try and make it funny. So if I do talk about this taboo thing, if this thing that, makes people go, part of the art is that I can take this and make it oh my God, dude, how did he do that? That was like, wow, that was brilliant, and to get people to laugh, to surprise them, because it's less of this, oh my God, and more of this like, holy shit, he did, like, you got, like, they're laughing. They can't control it because you surprised them, because they didn't think you could do that. They didn't think it was possible. To them, it's a taboo subject. To them, it's this thing that's an unmentionable, like we don't talk about that. And yet I broached the topic and got you to be like, you know what, that you do have, there's a point there. Like, I see what you did, and that was good, so.
I've heard it said that that's actually the job of a comedian, is to get the audience to, one, admit what they're thinking, because you're saying, okay, I align, you're actually saying what's in my mind. But other thing is to kind of push that boundary, and like, instead of, okay, I'm going to stop there. Like, okay, let me take that next step. And you're going to see that it's just a joke. It's just words. I know for me, I grew up in the era of George Carlin. You can listen to and watch a Carlin bit today, and it applies because what he was talking about was just the basic stupidity of life and people. And it doesn't change.
Yeah.
We are on a giant merry-go-round, and we just keep coming back around to the same stories.
Yeah, a lot of his like premises, they permeate time. Like it doesn't matter who you are, where you're at. It's like it still applies. It still applies. But if I may, bringing it back to, so when I moved to LA, and this is kind of bring me full circle to where I'm at now, what I'm doing here, and why I'm speaking today, and why I want to talk to people. When I moved to LA, and I was like just trying to get better, and I was this barroom comic, real rough around the edges, only been doing comedy like 4 years. I got out there and I wasn't welcomed because the shit that I was talking about was kind of taboo. And it was like, I was rough around the edges. I wasn't good at talking about that shit yet, particularly in front of like crowds that are, a little more like sensitive, or just more polished clubs that want you to like have your shit together. And it's okay to be new, but also like, we're not going to give you a whole lot of time. So I wasn't getting a lot of stage time. And I had this moment where I was like, shit, I just moved out here and I'm running this Wednesday show that's going great. I'm getting some spots, but like people kind of think I'm, because I talk about being a Marine and shit. I kind of talk crazy. People think I'm like a Republican, they kind of like put me in this box. They're like, oh, this guy's a piece of shit. He's a Republican. He hates women or something like that. People like, were like, oh, you're this type of comic and we don't book those guys. And, people can deny this if they want. And it's, it's always evolving and changing. But when I moved to LA, and LA is very much like this, being a straight white dude, you're just not getting a lot of love. And I get it, that there's a culture there that wants to support people that have been marginalized, and I'm all for it. I get it. I understand it. That being said, it left me on the outside. And I had this moment where I was like, well, what do I do? Like, I need to connect with an audience. Like, who's my crowd? Who does like me? These guys, people don't really like me here. What do I do? And I remembered all my buddies in the Marine Corps that had told me, they're like, yo, if you don't become a stand-up comic, you're wasting your life, dog. Just like talking shit, just being like, yo, man, you should do that one day. And I was like, yeah. And so I was like, I'm in SoCal. There's a bunch of Marine Corps units out here. I'm gonna hit them up. So I sent 400 letters out to Marine Corps units, really all over the country, but to a bunch of units in Southern California. And I was like, hey, I'm a Marine. I'm a comic. I'll come perform for you guys anytime, any place for free. And that's kind of how the Rapid Fire Comedy Tour started. I got the first email. Someone hit me up and did the first show, Cinco de Mayo, 2018. And I went by myself. I didn't bring anybody with me because I was like, this could be weird. This could be bad. They might cancel the show last minute. I got to drive all the way down to San Diego for it. Let me just see how it goes. And I went by myself and I did 45 minutes for 250 Marines, and they treated me like I was fucking Dave Chappelle. And I was like, oh, fuck. I had everything clicked. I was like, this is my crowd. This is where I'm supposed to be. This is it. Holy shit. And so I just like kind of snowballed from there. I started bringing my buddies with me, and that's why I became Rapid Fire, because the best, I feel for those shows, the best format is a fast, hot, short set lineup, because it's like military age males with a short attention span. Like for a good comic, yeah, you go up there for an hour and fucking bang on them and do it. But, for my peer group, particularly at the time, and even now, like a lot of us were like features, and we're still like building our hour. So our best sets, our tightest, hottest shit is like 10, 15, maybe 20 minutes. So I was like, I'm going to bring a bunch of comics out. So I started like, I'm in LA, I'm at all the clubs. I work at all the clubs. I'm hanging out with all these guys. I would get to go up to unknown guys, like unknown comics that are like really good, and like young guys and just hungry guys, and be like, yo, Friday, you want to get in a van, go down to Pendleton and perform for 200 Marines? And they're like, what? I'm like, yeah, dog, you want to go? And they're like, dude, what? Let's go. Let's go. That's crazy. So now I'm like loading vans up with comics, going down to Pendleton or 29 Palms or wherever. And we're putting on these shows, and these crowds are the greatest crowds in the world. These guys are fucking just going berserk, just eating it up, loving it. The best sense of humor you could have. And I'm like having this moment where I'm like, oh shit, like this is amazing. Like this is like unmatchable stage time. Like now I'm getting developed. I'm developing myself with my own crowds and my own shows with the military. And it was like, it was just about stage time in the beginning. I was like, man, this is amazing. And then as I did more shows, I was like, guys would come up to me or they would message me and they were like, dude, that was fucking amazing. The like leadership and units would be like, that was perfect. Like we had a hell of a week in the field, man. I saw guys that were like beefing with each other come together at your show. Like you like boosted fucking morale for real. Like, this was amazing. We're going to have you back, and Unit's having me back. And I was like, okay, this is more the stage time now. Like, I'm like, this is like doing things for these young guys. Like, this is doing for the stuff for these units. We are building morale. We are boosting camaraderie. And so in 2019, I was like, after doing a bunch of them, and I was like, you know, they're free because it's easier and faster to get them that way. People are like, oh, why don't you charge the military? Oh, I'd love to. There's money for it too. They have the money. But anytime you start that conversation, it just takes way longer. And there's way more people sticking their nose in it going, well, who are you? What are you doing? And in the beginning, it was really hard because we were like nobody. I was like, yeah, we've done like 2 shows and this is what we do. I didn't have a website or nothing. It didn't even have a name at the time. So I was like, yeah, we keep it free, man. You just tell, you know, the letter ends up in like a platoon commander's hand. I'm like, you just tell me what range you're going to be at. I have base access. We'll be there. I have everything. I have the speakers. I have the spotlight. I have a generator. If there's no power, I have it all. Stand-up's like, it's low barrier to entry. It's a mic stand, an XLR, and some speakers. Spotlight, you're good. It's like, I have it. You just tell me where. Oh, anytime, any place, we'll be there. And so I was like, the overhead was low. I owned a lot of the gear already from producing shows independently, but I wanted the best way to do this. That was another thing, is it became like this hang with the comics. I'm bringing these comics out. So we'll get like a 15-passenger van. I'll bring 10 comics out. And now like something else is happening where I'm getting all these comics, and a lot of them, you know, we all kind of see each other, we know each other, but like now I'm putting them in a van together, and it's kind of like a coordinated training in the Marine Corps where you get guys from different units, you start building relationships, and you end up like, you know, these guys, what's crazy is in stand-up comedy, like there's not a lot of help. It's a very independent game, and it's hard to get the industry to look at you and book you. A lot of your work, a lot of the money you make is from other comics. They see you, they book you, they recommend you, they give you a heads up, they fucking oh, go do this. So now I'm like, these guys are all breaking bread together in this van, and I'm bringing them out. And so we have to like rent a van, fill it with gas. And because they're all doing it for free, I'm like, man, I want to like buy these guys dinner after this. Should we stop at In-N-Out or something? So a show in the beginning, it was not too expensive. It was like maybe $300 to like do a show, $350 if we went and got dinner after. Sometimes they'd have food out there. But I was like, I spent a lot of my own money, and it was fine because I was like living in my car, working 3 jobs in LA. I was like, I had money. I don't got no kid. I ain't no girlfriend. I'm like, I can rent a van. This is fucking awesome. I'll pay for this forever. But I was like, we started getting more shows, and I was like, I should turn this into like a nonprofit and try and get like donations and stuff like that, get sponsors. So I did that in 2019, and then we got approved to be a 501c3 a month after the country shut down in 2020.
I was actually going to get back around to asking you how COVID impacted you.
COVID rocked my world hard. I had been living in LA for, 4 years. And I was like getting a lot of momentum. That Hooter show we did, we had changed venues a few times, and we finally got in at the Comedy Store. The Comedy Store was like, all right, we'll let you guys have a night in the belly room. And we had our first one on a Sunday between Christmas and New Year's, and we fucking sold it out. I hosted it. Todd Glass headlined. Great show. And we had our next date the following year in April. The country shut down in March. So that kind of shit killed all that momentum, plus just all the other momentum, just comedy and all the connections and doing shows. And I tried to stick around LA for like a couple weeks, but I just ended up like doing acid on a buddy's couch. And I was like, nah, man, I'm not a drug addict. I need to be doing something. I'm going to go back home. I had my condo in Vegas. I was like, go back to Vegas. My sister was renting a room for me. I was going to go back to Vegas, eat some home cooked meals, sleep in my bed, wait this out. Go back to Vegas. And for a month, I was like, all right, cool, man. I'm like sleeping in a bed. I'm feeling rested. I'm eating meals. Month 2, I was like out hiking. I'm getting fresh air. I'm like rested. Month 3, I'm like getting antsy. I'm smoking weed. I'm like spending more time just kind of like with my thoughts, trying to write, but like there's no shows going on. Everything's closed. Month 4, I'm like getting weird. I'm like, this doesn't feel good, man. I'm nervous. I don't like this. Like, what about all the shit? Like, what happened to everything? Like, is it going to come back? Like, what about everything I've been working for? Month 5 is like August. What's crazy is the year before, in August, I was in Edinburgh at Fringe doing a big comedy festival. It's 25 days long. To this day, next to perform for the Marines, the coolest thing I've ever done in my entire life. I opened 3 shows a night for 25 days straight, and I was barking out there for shows. Incredible. First time in Europe. Beautiful. And I wanted to go back the next year. I booked my flight, my Airbnb. I was set to go back. That got canceled too. But by August, I've been at home for 5 months. That festival's done. None of the shows are coming back. The country's still not open. And I had like a nervous breakdown. I was like, dude, my sense of self-worth, like everything I worked for, I had to like get into therapy and shit. I was like freaking out. I ended up getting some of the casinos were like opening up. I just got a job in Vegas. I was like, I have to work. I cannot sit at home I'll freak out. I'm like melting down. I got a job at a casino. I worked there for like a month. And then one of my buddies that stayed in LA, he was like, he's found out I got a job. He's like, bro, Texas and Arizona are open. He's like, fuck that, quit that job. Let's go. I quit. We go to Arizona for a couple of weeks, do shows and mics, hop around, just kind of get in the action. We go to Austin for a little bit, it's pre-Rogue and it was rough out there. But we did that for a little bit. And then Hollywood started open. The club started opening back up. Came back to LA. And we actually did a couple of military shows during COVID. The Marines were still doing it. They were like, will you guys still come? We're like, hell yeah, dude, we don't care. Yeah, come back to LA, and my buddy who ran that show, he had a daughter right before COVID, and it was hard to like raise a kid in that city and make money. So they ended up moving back to Arizona during COVID, and he kind of felt, so that show ended. But some other buddies of mine that were like, close to me and saw how hard I was grinding during COVID, they bought a venue and they leased a space. It was like a vacant shell, just like a gray shell. And they were like, we want to open like a comedy club that's also a podcast studio. And they came to me, they found out that the other show had stopped. They're like, you're a free agent? Like, you're not helping with, it was called Comedy Chat. He's like, you're not doing that show anymore? I was like, no. He's like, will you come help us? We're going to open a club. And I was like, fuck yeah, dude, let's go. And I helped them open this little black box theater in East Hollywood called Third Wheel. And it was so I ran the midnight show for them, and it was 7 nights a week. And it was crazy because at the time when they opened it, COVID was still a thing. So the clubs were all doing like temperature guns, vaccine cards, 6 feet distance. And we were just like this little independent thing. So we were like, just come on in. And we were on Eventbrite. People would find us and they would come, and we were like, we had a bunch of shows and open mics there, but the midnight show that I ran was 7 nights a week, and we sold out almost every night for like the first year for sure. And the second year it started to taper off. And the third year, the clubs were like in full swing and we lost some business, but we were like crushing it. Like at midnight in East Hollywood, a full room of like 70 people, real people, for a fucking open mic. It was bananas. It was so much fun. And everything I had learned doing that other show, I brought in with these guys, and I helped them train staff, got the door guys together, figured out how to get the flow going and hosting and, setting up equipment, just making it nice in there. And it was incredible. But yeah, COVID was rough. A lot of shows went away. Hollywood, like a lot of independent shows are gone now. A lot of people left. That's when Austin happened. Austin popped because of COVID. Rogan bounced out and a lot of people left, which is kind of a good thing because there was very much an old guard in LA, specifically at the Comedy Store. There's a lot of guys that, had just been there a long time, and it happens. You get your good old boys club and you feed your guys, and you LA's a transient town. There's a lot of weird people there. So you kind of like gatekeep. You got to gatekeep a little bit. You can't just let all these fucking weirdos and freaks and people that aren't serious about the craft in, it'll turn into like a shithole. But a lot of those guys left that were gatekeeping, and now that's kind of like opened up, the line kind of moved up to get like, into development at the Comedy Store, to get hired there. And so there's some good things that came from it too.
Isn't one of the things though you deal with as a young comic is you might have a time slotted, but if a known comic comes in and goes, hey, I want to jump up on the stage, you can get bumped?
Oh yeah, that happens all the time. Yeah. That's just part of the game, because eventually, in time it's you, and sometimes you'll be in a room, you just be hanging out at a club somewhere, and someone will go, oh dude, do you want to go up? And you're like, oh, I don't want to fuck your line. I was like, no man, just go, you go up, we'll put you up real quick. Just, yeah, you're fine. You're like, nah, I'm bumping somebody, but I do have some new shit I'm working on. I do want to do it. But yeah, so coming back to it, Rapid Fire, we became a 501c3, and the country shut down, and I get the 501c3 approval, but I start like cold calling companies or reaching out to everybody at the worst time, so we get like no action from it, but we're still getting shows, and things are rolling along. And eventually Irreverent Warriors brings me out to do a show for like one of their Silky's hikes, one of their like moto runs. And Vet TV, the CEO for Vet TV is there, and they see me and they're like, yo, this is fucking dope, man. We like you. Like, you're a good dude. We like what you're doing. Do you want to shoot a comedy special for us? And I was like, yeah, like, what do you want to do? And they're like, you pick a lineup of comics and the venue, and we'll bring all the production gear, we'll film it, and we'll pay you guys, and we'll just put it on our platform, and we'll pay you enough that like, you have some money for your nonprofit. And I was like, fuck yeah. And I did that twice for them. So they paid us not a whole lot of money, but enough that like, I don't have to pay for a van or gas anymore, and it set us up to where I even got to pay myself money back. I went through the books, and because I had been paying a lot of my own money, and I think up until that point I'd spent like, not a lot. It's like low overhead. I had only spent like maybe $4,000 in like 3 years producing shows. So I paid myself back, and now I don't have like all the little stuff, the website, you know, gas to drive down to San Diego to do a podcast, you know, in and out after a show for these guys. And we've gotten some more paid shows. I've only been paid twice by the Marine Corps, but one, some guy, it's another way we get shows is like people will, you know, we'll do a show and someone will like lat move it. They'll go to another unit and that unit will have some sort of event and they'll go, oh, fuck, you know who you should bring out for this? And that happened. It was the 9th Marine Corps District. They had like a big year-end all-star event in Wisconsin. And they were like, yo, we want to bring you guys out. And I was like, sweet, man. Like, we just need our travel covered. They're like, no, we're going to pay you as speakers. Like, we're going to fly you. We're going to get you a nice ass hotel room and we're going to pay everybody. And I was like, fucking sick, dude. And it was a killer show. It was awesome. We had like the big dinner with them. We did the team building. I played baseball with them and shit. It was amazing. And I brought one other comic with me and I brought my camera guy out, and it was fucking awesome. It did take them 10 months to pay me, which was very frustrating. But then, and then recently I just did a show in Miramar for the Air Wing down there, and they just paid us again too. And that was fucking nice. And, I'm at this point where in stand-up, you know, I've been doing it about 12 years now, and I love it. And it's all I want to do. I'd love to just be doing shows every weekend. But, you know, it's very hard to make money in the entertainment industry if you don't have a podcast, or you're not famous, or you're not in with the big group of whoever. And I can't do a podcast. I don't have enough shit to talk about. I'm a writer. I like to write and craft shit and come up with jokes and stuff. I'm a very serious guy. Like this format works great for me. I like telling my story and like, you know, just sharing things with people versus like, here's a pressure to be funny with these comics. So I'm like, and I don't really want to be an actor. I do some on the side. Sometimes the money's good and you're like, yeah, I'll do the little role, but I'm not an actor. I'm just a diehard comic. I like writing and performing stand-up comedy. That's all I really want to do. I do some character stuff online. On Instagram, I got a little page. It's called Skitmos, Skitmos, and it's like I do like an East Coast guy and all this shit, and it's fun. But I just want
the one that I saw recently.
Oh God,
that I just laughed was you're playing the two characters of the guy and the girl, and she's getting her anti-ice sign ready.
Yeah.
And you're like, but hey, babe, Love Island's on.
Yeah.
She goes, well, I'll just watch it. I'll watch it like recorded. He goes, yeah, but I'm going to text you the updates.
You better not. Yeah. Trying to make sketches is a whole nother thing too. My hat goes off to anybody that makes good sketches, because filming and editing is a nightmare, and just trying to make it sound good and look good. Ugh, giant pain in the ass. Stand-up, that's something. Stand-up's hard, but it's also simple. It's just you and the microphone and the spotlight. Here's all the shit I wrote down, and here's what I'm thinking about. And if you like it, you like it. So I'm trying to figure out, you know, ways to set myself up so that I can do stand-up full time. And, you know, it was my baby for a while. You know, it was Rapid Fire was just like this thing. Like, I just wanted to, like, you know, be able to run and I don't have to pay for it. But now it's become this thing where it's like, man, it's become so much bigger. Like I said, you know, it's now, I realize that it does, like, that's our mission statement, man. It boosts morale, builds camaraderie, promote true welfare. And like for these comics too, like I'm developing comics. I'm like building relationships. These guys are getting to know each other. They're experiencing it. And even bigger than that, like I realized this a couple years ago, is for a lot of these guys, like the age demographic, 17 to 25, it's their first time even seeing stand-up comedy live. A lot of them, I asked before the shows, a lot of them never been to a comedy club. And a lot of them, like, you know, they come from like middle of nowhere, Arkansas or something. And I'm watching these guys get exposed to like a black comic, a gay comic, a trans comic. And these comics are like crushing. And I'm watching these guys go, yo, I didn't know that like I could like that this would be funny, or that this person would make me laugh, or that they could like, that we could talk about these things, and that they're, you know, like I'm like exposing them to like a culture and shit. And I feel like it's good for them, because you definitely need a little bit of, you know, there's just young guys that are crazy, and they get in that tunnel vision of like kill bodies and shit, you know, just let them know that, like, you know, like gay people are funny, dude. Like my buddy, Eric Rocha, man, this motherfucker cannot have a bad set. The Marines love this dude. He just murders every time. He's so funny. And of course, like, Marines love gay shit. He's so funny. But yeah, so it's like, it's become this thing where like now it's not just about the comics and the stage time and even building morale, building, you know, boosting morale and all that. It's about like exposing young men and service women to like new points of view, especially in a world today where there is a lot of taboo shit and people are feeling very fucking divided. You're like, look, we're all good, bro. All these guys run up in a van and they're all going to hang out with you after the show and they're all talking shit about everything. Like, it's all good, man. Like, at the end of the day, it's all good. We all want to hang and talk shit. And so I realized, like, the only way I get these shows is guys get letters, you know, and then if it lines up with their timing, they hit us up. So I'm just taking it upon myself. That's why I'm doing this podcast run. I really appreciate you bringing me on, is just share this story with them and let people don't know who we are. They don't know what we're doing. And I want people to go and just visit the website. You know, I'm sure it'll all be on here in the show notes, but rapidfirecomedytour.org, and just go check us out. Read on the website. The story's there. You see what's going on. I got some videos of like what we've done. You can find us on Instagram. Just check us out, and you know, you don't even have to donate. Just talk about us. If you know guys that are in, or guys that are in charge, or that's another thing too, is I've like, military goes beyond active duty guys. Like, a lot of military guys are first responders now. They get out and they work in law enforcement. They become firemen, and those guys have like get-togethers and company parties and throw bashes. And it's like, we'll come out and do shows for you guys too. And that's the other thing, is like, I'm not trying to get rich. I just need to pay my bills. You know what I'm saying? I want to be able to do this full time. So it's like, when I send these letters out, the conversation is still like, yo, we'll come out for free. But like, if you guys could throw together a couple $100 and help pay for the van, like, let's do that, you know? Or if you do have a budget, like, let's make it really happen. Like, when I load a van up with 10 really good comics, and we drive 3 hours down and put on this show where people are like, holy shit, that's a $5,000 experience minimum. That's what that shit costs. That's what it's worth, bare minimum. But at the end of the day, like, I'll work with any budget. I don't care. We just, like I said, we'll come out for free. The money, we got money in the, you know, it's SoCal, we'll drive out. But like, you want us to come across the country, you know, we got to cover transportation and shit like that. So we're looking for people that, you know, do want to donate and maybe be sponsors and stuff like that. But really, step one, day one, chapter one, verse one, shows. You want us to come out, you guys throwing a thing, you want your boys to have a good time, you want us to bring everything out and put on a cool show. That's all I want to do. Let me know. I'll bring the comics anywhere. And the only thing that's hard is sometimes it's raining, but if you give me enough heads up, I'll bring a tarp. We'll figure that out too, you know? That's the whole thing, and is just letting people know that we're out here and we're doing it, and I want to do more of it. I want to do it full time. That's all I want to focus on.
On the smaller scale, is there a place, or are you in front of the mic on a regular basis where somebody could just come see you individually? Yeah.
So the best nowadays, the best way to see that is if you go on Instagram. You know, that's kind of like the gold standard now for entertainment and promotion. But my Instagram is my name is Michael D'Angelo. My Instagram is Michael the, like the, and then Angelo. So Michael the Angelo. And you can find all my stuff on there. But yeah, I get up, you know, if it's a good week, I'm doing like 2 shows a week throughout Hollywood, LA. We get on the road here and there. I'm going to be in Park City, Utah this month in December. I think it's on the 18th to the 19th. And then I'm actually down, I think I'm down here in Temecula the very next day. It's like Friday I'm in Park City. And then Saturday I'm down here in Temecula, and I'm headlining both those shows. And then in Hollywood, I'm just doing spots. So that's another big thing that happened this year, is I got put in development at the Comedy Store this year, which is fucking huge. I've been out there for 8 years trying to get in, and the new booker likes me, and I'm getting more stage time there. I was just there the other night doing shows. So yeah, if you guys, you know, people want to come see shows, you find me on Instagram and let you know when I'm coming to your city. I try to get out on the road, but it's hard to get out on the road and like do it and break even. And I'll still go out and do shows and not make money, and I'm down, you know, but it's like, I'm just at this point now where I have no choice, especially just that it's not even like the skill, like, oh, I deserve this and I'm worth this. It's more of like, I'm just trying to position myself so that I can actually make money doing this, and I can keep doing it and do it everywhere and travel and do it. And I want to travel and do cities, but it's already it's a grind to fly and travel and be lonely on the road and, you know, maybe do like a weird venue or a weird show and lose money. You're just like, like I love it. And I've been, you know, losing money doing it for, you know, 12 years, and I'll continue to for the rest of my life if I have to, because it's all I want to do. But I'm taking it upon myself to get out and talk to people and share the story and let people know, like, you know, come support me. The industry, it's not, the game has changed, you know. It's not, you don't just get on late night anymore, or like get booked in a movie role and then you blow up. No, the power's right here, man. These podcasts, guys having conversations and sharing me with their audiences and people find you on social media. This is the new marketplace, and I'm just out here trying to just tell the story, you know.
Well, I appreciate you taking the time to share your story, and I wish you all the best going forward.
Thank you, Paul. I appreciate you, man. I hope your show kicks off even more too. It sounds like you're going to be getting a studio. That's exciting, man.
I hope so.
Killer.
As always, thank you for listening or watching the episode. If you have any comments or questions, feel free to reach out on social media or send me an email. The links are all in the show notes. I'd love to hear from you. Also, if you're not already, please follow the podcast on whatever platform you get your podcasts. You can also subscribe on YouTube. And if you would, please leave me a rating. Ratings do two things. You can tell me what I need to fix or improve, and the more ratings also gets the podcast recommended to more people. Another ask, please share the podcast with anyone you think could benefit from and enjoy it. And last, don't forget, sign up for the newsletter.